Has there ever been a time in all of the history of the world where somebody has applied the term apartheid to an occupied territory?
That's a ridiculous question.
Can you answer the question? The problem in South Africa was a systematic discrimination codified in law that was treating people of different races differently and assigning them different rules, different laws, different, everything, completely differently. The problem between Israel and Palestine is the occupation. That's the problem. When the occupation goes away, when the occupation goes away, when the occupation goes away,
exactly the conditions.
Listen, I'm not here for a one state. So you're trying to like sneak your way into, okay? If the occupation is resolved, the apartheid goes away. Do you think the apartheid goes away without resolving the occupation?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Do you think that if the occupation was resolved, it's highly likely the apartheid would go away?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Kyle Kalinske confidently says Israel's actions are the worst thing we've seen since the Nazis.
I mean, what is there to say? I'm running out of adjectives. I'm running out of ways to talk about this. And, you know, it's very defeating watching all this. Look, credit to everybody who's protesting on this. Credit to everybody who's really fighting to try to put a stop to it. It's worked in the sense that now you have the U.S. at least virtue signaling, like, we're not for everything Israel's doing, but it's got to become action. It can't just be...
It's been action, right? We've delayed Israel actions. We've fought for more aid to go to the Gaza Strip. Okay.
Words. It can't just be words.
It's not just words.
So what we're witnessing here is, I'll just say, I think it's the worst thing we've seen since the Nazis. And I don't even think that's controversial if you just look at empirically look at the situation. Just
late 20th century genocides. I'm just curious because I don't know. Let's just look them up. Indonesian mass killings of 1965. Let's see. Indonesian 1965 killings. Large-scale killings and civil unrest, primarily targeting members of the Communist Party, were carried out in Indonesia from 65 to 66. Other affected groups included alleged communist sympathizers, Jerwani women, trade unionists, ethnic Japanese, Abagan, ethnic Chinese, atheists, so-called unbelievers, and the alleged leftists in general. According to the most widely published estimates, at least 500,000 to 1.2 million people were killed, with some estimates going as high as 2 to 3 million. Okay, so the current Israeli invasion or push to the Gaza Strip is worse than the Indonesian mass killings of 1965 to 1966. Let's see, 1971 Bangladesh genocide. 1971 Bangladesh genocide. Pakistani soldiers and local pro-Pakistani militias killed between 300,000 to 3 million Bengalis and raped between 200,000 and 400,000 Bengali women in a systematic campaign of mass murder and genocidal sexual violence. The current invasion into the Gaza Strip is worse than this. Deaths. How do you have death figures that are this wide? 300,000 to 3 million? Okay, so current thing is worse than that. Cambodian genocide. How many people died in this? Let's see. It resulted in the deaths of 1.5 to 2 million people from 1975 to 1979, nearly a quarter of Cambodia's population in 1975. Nearly a quarter. That's 1/4. That's 25% for people keeping track at home. Okay. Apparently the current Gaza Strip invasion is worse than the Cambodian genocide, the 1984 Sikh genocide. What about this one? Was a series of organized pogroms Government estimates projected about 2,800 Sikhs were killed and 3,000. Not okay. Worse than this one for sure. Fashizi. Guatemalan genocide. Deaths, silent Holocaust period, 162,000 total. Civil War was 200,000 total. Okay, just seeing what's going on over there. How many people died here? Why is there so much death and killing over in Indonesia? What are you guys doing over there? Damn, this place sounds kind of fucked up, I'm gonna be honest. Estimates of the total dead from the war range from 100,000 to 300,000. Okay. What about Rwandan genocide? I don't know. This is in 94. 500,000 to 800,000 Tutsi deaths. My God. Yeah, I don't even think, wait, were any of these in Africa? Indonesia, Bangladesh, Cambodia. The Sikh genocide, this is Indonesia as well. Guatemalan genocide, and East Timor. So we're not even scratching the surface of. We haven't even gotten to Africa yet at all. We haven't even gotten to Africa at all yet. Okay. Anyway, we haven't even gotten to Africa at all. August, make this a clip. This is a ridiculous statement. So what did he say? I'm sorry. People keep telling me to look up Mao's China. Oh wait, I was gonna say I was only looking at stuff after the Holocaust. This was after the Holocaust. Wait, that's all fair game, actually. You're totally right. The Great Leap Forward and the Holodomor, that is fair game. No, that is all fair game. I don't, yeah. Wait, this is such an unbelievable statement.
I'll just say, I think is the worst thing we've seen since the Nazis. And I don't even think that's controversial if you just look at empirically look at the situation.
What empirics? Kyle, I'm not even trying to be mean here, okay? Holodomor was before, the Holodomor might have been in the 1917? That actually might be true. Hold on. Wait, I don't remember the Holodomor, what year that was. No, 1930s. My bad. What is sitting out in 1917? That might be Armenian genocide. Around this time period. It was like 1910s, whatever. Took them a while. A lot of Armenians to kill. Okay. Holodomor was 1930, 1930. Sorry, Holodomor, that's off the list, okay? My bad. Holodomor was 30s, okay?
Let's look at the facts. I think it's the worst thing we've seen since the Nazis. And that's why the younger generation is in the U.S. is not having it. And they are revolting. And they're literally, you have Arab Americans and Muslim Americans revolting, and we'll do a story on that a little bit later. But man,
this is what I mean when I argue against people when they bring in words like genocide and apartheid and blah 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 blah. All they're doing is like they're just like it feels like they bring in a bunch of like morally loaded words so that they can make statements. Like, is this really the worst thing that's happened since the Nazis? Truly, is it really the worst thing since the Nazis? Also, this is what Jews mean when they say, why do I feel like we're held to a different standard than everybody else, right? This is what Jews mean when they say that. When people say shit like, this is the worst shit since the Nazis. Truly? Is that a real take or is that an American take where the only regions in the world you know about are what show up on US news? Like, are you implying that Kyle Kulinski is being anti-Semitic? So here's an issue. I'm gonna sympathize. All of these debates are making me... are rotting my brain, okay? If you were to cut my head off right now and slice my brain in half, I feel like you'd start to find the Jewish flag there, okay? Me, the Israeli flag, okay? Is it anti-Semitic? I don't think so. I don't think that's the motivation for it. But like, if I was Jewish and every single time you were critical of ISIS or Al-Qaeda or the Taliban or Iran or Pakistan or Saddam Hussein or Assad or the civil war happening in Yemen or anything. And every time you do that, people are like, oh, wow, you're Islamophobic. Oh, wow, you're racist. Oh, wow, looks like you hate brown people. Oh, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow. And you're like, okay, I don't think necessarily, but okay. And now people are like, Israel is a Holocaust f***ing state, okay? Israel's holocausting everybody. This is the worst shit that's ever happened. These people are filthy f***ing dogs. The way that they rape and whoa, bro, that's a little, whoa. I'm just talking about Israel, okay? I'm not talking about Jews, okay? I just mean Israel, like the country. There's a lot of good Jews. For instance, like the ones that hate Israel. It's like, do I think that the left or a lot of the driving sentiment on the left is anti-Semitic in nature? I don't think so. Not, at least not so far from what I've seen from anybody. I don't think it's like driven by anti-Semitism. But at some point, god damn, it bleeds into what feels like anti-Semitism really quickly, right? Yeah, I don't think it's driven by anti-Semitism, but god damn, it's like indistinguishable. Okay, what do we got here? Oh my god, our good Palestinian friend.
The approximately 40-page document, which the Israeli authorities codenamed
Why is this unhinged archive?
Jericho Wall, outlined point by point exactly the kind of devastating invasion that led to the deaths of about 1,200 people. It's a sad day when the New York Times is even using the correct language to describe the deaths that occurred on October 7th, and Al Jazeera is not. Al Jazeera keeps saying Hamas killed 1,200 people. They keep saying that, and it's pissing me the f*** off. Stop it. Stop saying that. That's not true. I'm very, very aware of the possibility that anybody can grow and learn, and this is what I hope for all of us. I know on Blue Sky right now, if you're on Blue Sky, I'm running this mute list called Zionist Scum. So if somebody ever shows a certain characteristic that I list, say they're going around saying Israel has the right to defend itself, they're saying Zionist lies, et cetera, et cetera.
Highly biased or highly ignorant does not equal anti-Semitism. Honestly, roll my eyes on people as a term, just as much as Destiny rolls his eyes at the use of the term genocide. Sure, that's fine, and that's fair for you to do that. But when the same people that call every single thing Islamophobic, every single thing racist, every single thing misogynistic, right, when they're so quick to jump on this for everything, and then they're using terminology that if this was applied to any non-white population, they would be calling it anti-Semitic, they'd be calling it blah, 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 right? It'd be over. Actually, we don't have to look at anti-Semitism, or I'm sorry, we don't have to make a comparison. We can just compare anti-Semitism to anti-Semitism. We can compare lefties' views on anti-Semitism to lefties' views on anti-Semitism 5 or 6 years ago when we were in the whole crypto-fascist arc. Remember when everybody was saying, here's how much it was a long time ago. Is it staffer makes okay sign? What was this image or view? Back then, if you got caught doing this, you were a card-carrying, certified, wishing for the revival of Hitler Nazi. Period. It was over for you. That's all it took back then. Is somebody seeing you to make an okay thing or do this thing on your legs. That's all it took. That's all it took. So no, I think that there's clearly the standards being applied are not the same. And it probably feels pretty stupid at some point. We're like, really? I agree. Again, I'm saying I don't think that most of the sentiment on the left is driven by anti-Semitism or doesn't feel like that right now. But it doesn't feel like it's driven by anti-Semitism, but I could definitely see it bleeding over real quick. And I could definitely see how the people affected by it are feel like, yo, this is kind of anti-Semitic. Yeah. Why did you respond to my post about the pre-67 borders and then drop the conversation? We can talk it over right now. What gives? Debate me. Wait, who are you? What are you talking about? Where are you?
I put them on the list, to make sure that people don't engage with them and we can better control the traffic of Zionism on that website. Do we have to sit here or do protest? Is it possible to go fight on the front line? Not really a good idea to do that. Are you talking about going to Gaza? Gaza?
Oh, she's trying to do the thing because they pronounce it like Hazar or I don't even know how they do it. Oh, she's doing the thing. Yes, you got to get that mask on, girl.
Trying to figure out how to say it. I need to re-listen to that VOD with Cole and learn the pronunciations. If you're talking about going to the front line, as in going to Gaza, don't consider doing that. It doesn't make any sense to do that. You're probably just gonna die. What a frontline fight could look like is you doing direct action to disable the Israeli genocide machine, because the Israeli genocide machine is happening. It is in action in Gaza right now and in the West Bank.
_black_economist just resubscribed for 40.
I told you based on your logic, Israel doesn't have borders. Oh, were you the retard on Twitter? Yeah, the problem is you guys say things on Twitter thinking that you've got big gotchas, but you don't. You think that you're saying something where it's like, well then, Oh yeah, Destiny? Well, if you're saying that those borders didn't actually exist, well, I got news for you, Destiny. Then Israel didn't have real borders. You know what I would say? I would say, yeah, that's right. That's why Israel fights to establish its existence. No fucking shit, Sherlock Holmes. Of course Israel didn't have real borders because none of the other surrounding countries recognized those borders until Egypt signed the peace treaty in 79. No shit, they didn't have real fucking borders, you That's why there were so many fucking wars fought over and over and over and over and over again. No shit. There's no debate there. That's not a gotcha. You don't have me there. I'm agreeing with you. No shit. It's like when people were saying it's like when people were bringing up I was like ethnically Palestinians. It's not even to say they're distinct from Jordanians is stupid. And people are like, oh, so what, Destiny? You don't think Americans are real because they were all British before the Declaration of Independence? Yes. Yeah. No shit, Sherlock Holmes. It was a British colony. What do you think? The people there went over. You think as soon as they got on the boat, they were like, oh, we're at the Atlantic peoples and now we're people of the new world? No, of course they were British, you retard. No shit. Oh, they can debate me if I'm so retarded. Let's do it. It should be easy. Okay. Jump into general lobby 2 and I'll drag you up. What time? And then tell me in kick chat what your name is. Sure.
Months. Wow, the black buys are
Young Black Economist. Thank you for the 14 months. Thank you. Yeah, what you want to do, if you really want to do fighting on the front lines, it's not worth spending all the money and effort to go to Gaza where there's a blockade. You won't be able to get in anyways. And then if you did, it would be extremely detrimental. I don't think that's the smartest use of resources or life, personally. And none of the Palestinian organizations that I've been paying attention to, including the PFLP, excuse me, the Palestinian Front for the Liberation of the People's Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Holy shit! Wake up! The PFLP is not, which is, by the way, one of the armed groups that is fighting along Hamas to try to prevent Israel from annexing Gaza right now. They're not telling any of us to come down there. So I'm just saying, if you want to take a page out of their book, what they're asking you to do.
Hold on, I'm so good. Does she support them? Remember, this was like one of the, I think their reputation in the late 60s and early 70s were for hijacking airplanes. Maybe they've changed. To be fair, I'm sorry. To be fair, because the PLO of today is not the PLO of the 70s, to be fair. So it could be today the PFP, Popular Front, the Liberation Front for the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Fuck these names. PFLP, PFPL, Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. PFLP. Maybe they're more chill today. It's possible. They're more chill today.
To speak truth to the Palestinian perspective, to defeat the Zionist lies, to disassemble the Zionist war machine, the genocide machine. For instance,
the PFLP's Abu Ali Mustafa brigades has carried out attacks on both civilians and military targets during the Al-Aqsa Intifada. Some of these attacks are the killing of Mike Slemberg, a counselor and head of security in 4 settlements, who was shot while traveling in his car. Assassination of Israeli Minister for Tourism, a suicide bombing in a pizzeria in killing 3 teenagers, a suicide bombing in Ariel, which left people wounded but no fatalities, a suicide bombing in Netanyahu, a market in Israel, killing 3 Israelis, a suicide bombing in the bus station, which killed 4 Israelis, a suicide bombing in the Jordan Rift Valley, which left no fatalities, a suicide bombing the Carmel Market, which killed 3 civilians, fired projectiles, bombs, anti-tank missiles, injuring 4 soldiers and surrounding vehicles, claimed responsibility for the November 2014 Jerusalem synagogue massacre, in which 4 Jewish worshippers and the policemen were killed with axes, knives, and guns, while some were injured. However, the Israeli police concluded the attack was a lone wolf operation. PFLP claimed for an attack in which Palestinians in a vehicle fired at a passing Israeli car. 4 people were injured, one was severely injured, who died the next day in the hospital. Okay.
if you were to handcuff yourself to the doors of Elbit weapons manufacturer, which is one of the biggest weapons manufacturers for Israeli genocide.
All right, hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
Okay, so let's start with wherever you began. You were debating somebody else. Now I can't see their post. So where was it?
On Twitter?
Yeah, on Twitter.
I don't remember. They might have deleted it because I got bullied.
Okay. It was about Jordan and Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
And people were rejecting the idea that Jordan, well, you weren't entirely clear on what you meant by that, but that Jordan and Palestine are basically the same.
Or like the people there weren't significantly different from each other, I don't believe.
All right, but that's kind of vague because, okay, are we talking about ethno-nationalism, that they're not, because they're genetically similar, they shouldn't be different nations, they should be considered the same nation? I'm
not making any prescription, I'm just trying to start in the same reality. My understanding is that the smattering of Arabs across Syria, across Iraq, I don't know if about the entire Arabian Peninsula, but at least in the like northwest part of Jordan, of Palestine, that these people were like all like, just like there weren't like, you couldn't draw distinct lines, but like, oh, this is this group of people, and this is that group of people, and this is that group of people. They all like hailed of like common ancestors in the Levantine or whatever the fuck, or the Levant, sorry, and then they were all just kind of like, yeah, these people here, yeah.
Well, okay, so they didn't all have the same ancestors, because Arabification or Arabization is it's a linguistic and cultural affiliation. It doesn't necessarily mean you come from the same genetic source. And as far as nationalism arises.
Well, they do come. To be clear, real quick though, they do come from the same genetic. They might not necessarily mean it. The Arabification means it, but they do come from the same genetic source. Because for some reason, all these people keep trying to throw like genetic studies at me, and all the genetic studies say as much.
I think genetics is a pretty stupid basis for a nation, but
I agree.
Nevertheless, when the Arabs would conquer different areas, they would bring their religion, their culture, their language. So.
Sure.
Just like if you're conquered by the Romans here, doesn't mean your genetic origin is in
That's
Rome.
Fine. All I was saying in the beginning was that I don't believe there was a huge distinction between the people that happen to live in Palestine and the people that happen to live in Jordan. I don't think there's a big distinction.
The distinction is that they live in Palestine.
Yeah, but Palestine didn't exist until Britain made the mandate.
Well, that's what the region was called, and when we're talking about Palestine, we're referring to that place.
Okay, can you show me that on a map somewhere before the Britain mandate?
Yeah, okay. Palestine, world map. So
if you're just Googling this right now, you're not going to have luck. If you've never seen this before, which is fine, I understand, because you've heard all the propaganda lines and you think you're going to find it. You're not going to find it, especially if you're just Googling now. You think that who's been looking at this for a month and a half, you think if you could Google the answer and disprove me now that I would have made that statement towards you?
Okay, so then tell me when the early Zionists wrote about their plan to colonize Palestine, why did they call it Palestine? Why did they use the term Palestine? Why did the Balfour Declaration, before there was even the British mandate, why did they call it Palestine?
I'm pretty sure the area they refer to is Syria. Is it Syria Palestina?
It's a colloquial term for that region.
Yeah, when you say
why did they call the British mandate for Palestine? They just pulled that name out of their ass. The British invented that name.
What the region that they were referring to was not just the modern day borders of Israel-Palestine.
The region that they were referring to, what are you talking about? The Jordan-Palestine, that map where they're saying the British mandate was for both Jordan and Palestine?
I think for the first one they did. I think that the mandate was for, I think then it was called Transjordan and Palestine, that whole region together. But then I think eventually they split it up because
Palestine is Palestine. But this is largely irrelevant because we're talking about the people who lived in that region. That's why they're distinct, because that's where they live. That's why there's a reason for them to identify with each other and have a nationalist movement, because they were ethnically cleansed from that region. That's the whole. That's how nationalism arrives for the Palestinians.
Okay, let's say that
there's a political necessity for it.
Okay, makes sense. Maybe you're correct 100%. So let's look at what happens after 1948. And let's see if that holds true. Why is it that in 1948, when Jordan invaded the West Bank and conquered that territory, why did they annex it and make every single one of those Palestinians Jordanian citizens? If they were a distinctly different group of people who wanted their own nation.
Because it was in their interest to do so at the time.
It was in their interest to give up their whole aspirations for their country?
No, the Jordanians.
They did it at the request of the Palestinians there.
The Palestinians were given citizenship and representation in Jordan. So at that time, Jordan had the army.
Do you know what happens when Israel offers citizenship to Palestinians living in Jerusalem? They leave. They don't take that citizenship.
Actually, some of them have taken it. Some of them don't want it. Some of them want Jordanian citizenship. But that's a very
When you say some of it, my understanding is maybe a few, but the majority, like 80% plus, when offered citizenship in Jerusalem from Israel, they just leave. They're like, fuck you, and they just bounce.
You can look at the divide, but the problem with if you accept Israel's claim over East Jerusalem specifically, then now you're at the whims of the Israeli government, which they already are in large part. But Israel has been conducting an ethnic cleansing operation in East Jerusalem. They're trying to make it as Jewish as possible. So just because you take citizenship doesn't mean now suddenly you're a strong political voice in Israel's country. If they give citizenship to the 5 million Palestinians who live under Israel's military rule, then there would be a large enough political force for Israel no longer to be a Jewish state. But if they're not going to have the political power to override the Israeli government.
Palestinians in the West Bank, why would you allow somebody else to formally annex you into your country? Why would you give up your whole land and say, okay, yes, why wouldn't you just have it a temporary occupation until they can establish their own country?
The Palestinians had no military capability at that point. They are not a powerful people. I mean, at that point, if they live in Jordan, they had citizenship, they had representation in parliament. That was a better deal than leaving them to the Zionist forces, which had ethnically cleansed 80% of Palestine. They captured 80% of the territory and ethnically cleansed 80% of the native population.
Wait, why not just make them a country and defend them?
Okay, so we're saying that because the Jordanians weren't more noble in their approach to the Palestinians, they didn't pursue this idea of establishing a Palestinian state then I don't know what the argument is. That
the argument is if there is a distinct group of people, that exist that want their own country and they're distinctly different from Jordan or Jordanians, why would they allow themselves to be willingly conquered by Jordan, annexed into Jordan proper, all made Jordanian citizens, and be part of the country of Jordan? That's what they all thought they were.
The Zionist forces were progressing through Palestine and ethnically cleansing all the villages as they went. 80% of that population. The Jordanians didn't ethnically cleanse them.
Wait, hold on. So the Jordanians ethnically cleansed the Jewish population of the West Bank.
Talking about the Palestinians.
That's fine. I understand that. But number two,
so why would Palestinian? What choice do you have? Like you're dealing with the practical reality of the situation at that point.
So now we're dealing with practical realities? I thought that
we're always dealing with practical realities.
I don't understand why you wouldn't just say, thank you for taking this land so that Israel can't take it. We're going to be our own country now, and then you can just support us like all of the other surrounding Arab nations support everybody else.
Okay. Who are you to say that? You're not a powerful political force. The whole reason why it was possible for
none of these people are
to establish itself is because the Palestinians, the people who lived in Palestine, were not a formidable political force. They didn't have an army. They didn't govern themselves.
I agree. Yes, they didn't have an army. They didn't have like a cohesive government because they didn't have a cohesive national identity. It was just a group of people who were living in an area. Yes, they didn't all view themselves as like
the necessity for a nationalist movement comes from the fact that they've been colonized and ethnically cleansed from their where they live. Their lands.
Sure, I agree with that 100%. So Palestinian nationalistic identity is a response to Israeli nationalist identity. But it wasn't there before the Israeli people were. But I agree with you what you're going to say there, sure.
Yes, nationalist identity, yes.
Okay.
So I guess we've settled that. Okay, you keep saying apartheid is a stupid term to throw around?
Yeah.
Okay, why is it stupid?
I think apartheid generally implies that you have a country, and within that country, you are hardcore enforcing systematic forms of discrimination against certain ethnic, religious, whatever groups. I think that for Israel and the occupied territories, it feels strange to call it apartheid when you're never going to fix the apartheid as long as they're occupied. But if you can fix the occupied part, the apartheid part probably goes away. So it seems stupid to like focus on like apartheid.
But is it right now? Is it an apartheid system or not?
I mean, I don't know. There are Islamist parties that are represented in the Knesset. I don't think you could have had that in apartheid South Africa, could you?
Yeah, but they're a minority. It's always been acceptable to have a minority.
Well, because they're a minority of
Arabs
people.
or non-Jews. But you look at the 2018 nation-state law, and now this is reflected through Zionism and through Israel's politics throughout its history. But as recently as the 2018 nation state law, they say only the Jewish people have the right to national self-determination.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter how many Arabs you get in parliament according to that law. And basically that law states that you can't have too many non-Jews running the country because only the Jews have the national right to self-determination.
Sure.
Okay, so you have a 5 million plus Palestinians living under Israel's military rule. Obviously, they're subject to different laws, different living conditions. There's a government that represents the interests of the Jewish people, and that's explicit.
Mm-hmm.
They segregate the populations. They have roads that are just for Jews, settlements.
Mm-hmm.
They seize control over water resources.
You're just going to name you're going to name a million things. I'm just going to repeat exactly what I said before.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
the conditions under an occupied or an occupier area is obviously going to be like asymmetrical. That's almost for sure going to be true.
Yeah, but why is it not an apartheid?
Because I think apartheid generally refers to like a single state that's enacting like systematic discrimination or injustices against like a group of people based on race or whatever.
And is there a Palestinian state?
Not really, no.
According to Israel? Okay, so Israel, and you can look at Netanyahu, showing off his map of Israel at the UN, or just look at the way the country is run. They conquered those territories a long time ago in 1967. Mm-hmm. It is a single state. They haven't formally annexed the West Bank, but they have annexed it. They're filling it with their settlements, with their people. There's, nearly 500,000 Jews there, and the Israeli military rules. So it is effectively, functionally a single state where 5 million people don't have the same rights.
Do you think calling it apartheid or not changes anything?
I think you say it's stupid. People are using that as a point of reference because...
But it's not an accurate point of reference.
Okay, why is it not an accurate point of reference?
If the territories were formally annexed and the differentiation in status maintained such that people of different ethnicities were deprived systematically of certain rights, then I think we have an apartheid condition such that we should remove or revoke all U.S. support. The whole world should be looking at that in a really fucked up way, because now you've got a country that's treating its citizens different. For occupation, I think it's a lot different because the issue right now isn't the apartheid conditions. The issue is the occupation.
Yes, it is. Of course it is.
Okay.
That's a very serious issue, and they have functionally annexed it. You're talking about formally annexing it, but the main reason not to formally annex it is because it would be like Israel formally declaring we're an apartheid state, signed Israel, but functionally that's what it is. They've held it for 56 years. You're calling it it's just occupied territory. They've incorporated it into Israel, and their project. Another thing in that nation state law is that the settlements are of national value and should be expanded. So there's no uncertainty.
Has there ever been a time in all of the history of the world where somebody has applied the term apartheid to an occupied territory?
That's a ridiculous question.
Can you answer the question? I need you to answer the question. I need you to tell me, has there ever been a time in history where somebody's referred to an occupied territory as apartheid?
Well,
I need to see if you can answer a question that you feel doesn't show you in the best light. Because I've noticed when I talk to people, they'll never make a concession. They'll never realize. Because I'm just curious. Can you even answer that question? Has there ever in the history of the whole world been a country where we've said that an occupied peoples live under apartheid conditions? I just want to know if there's an answer to that.
Okay, well, let's start by how many countries have been called an apartheid and how many countries have occupied territory for 56 years. Find me that list, and then we'll narrow down how many of them fit your description. Just because Israel is unique doesn't mean that the apartheid is not about has there ever been this or that. It's about describing the reality of the people living in the apartheid system. So you're reaching for a deflection here. You're trying to bring us off somewhere irrelevant to ignore the core of the issue.
Sorry, I just want to say, Destiny.
No, wait. Before somebody else jumps in, I still want him to answer that question. If the answer is no, then just bite the bullet and say no, and then you can use this excuse if you want. That's fine. But I'm still want you to bite the bullet. Has apartheid ever been applied to any other occupied territory ever?
I don't know how many countries apartheid has been applied to, period.
1. South Africa.
Okay.
Okay, so it's never been applied to another occupied territory, correct? Okay.
Before South Africa, would you have used that argument against Nelson Mandela? Well, was there ever a situation where something happening in South Africa was called an apartheid? Stupid argument. So just because there was never a situation similar to South Africa, are you saying that wasn't an apartheid?
No, but apartheid referred to a particular super wrong thing that needed to be remedied within a country.
That wasn't your question.
I don't understand.
Yes,
I don't understand how you
apartheid,
hold on, let me
now-
finish. Hold on. I don't understand how you guys have so much trouble understanding this, okay? The problem in South Africa was a systematic discrimination codified in law that was treating people of different races differently and assigning them different rules, different laws, different,
Yes.
everything, completely differently, okay?
Yes, okay,
that
there you
problem,
go. So
no,
now
shut
you
the
get-
up, you 85 IQ dipshit, okay? The problem with South Africa was that in one country, they were treating an ethnic group differently. The problem between Israel and Palestine is the occupation. That's the
Okay,
problem.
you're-
When the
you're saying it's
occupation
the
goes away,
occupation,
when the
it's
occupation
functionally
goes
a part
away,
of
when the
Israel.
occupation
You're
goes away,
describing exactly the conditions
listen, I'm
that
not here for a
Palestinians
one
live
state
under.
cuck answer that you're trying to sneak your way into, okay? If the occupation is resolved, the apartheid goes away. The apartheid is never getting addressed while they're occupied territories. Do you agree with those statements or do you disagree with those?
Well, that's a more complicated.
Okay, I'm going to keep asking. I'm going to keep asking you the answer. So I'm going to ask: do you think the apartheid conditions go away while they're occupied territories?
Well, I have to ask a question here. Are we talking about if it were to be? Some people say one state, some people say two state. Does one state mean the occupation goes away?
Yes, it would mean that.
Okay, so yes, there needs to be a political solution to end the apartheid, of course.
Okay, so
One state or two
I'm
state,
going to
either
repeat my
way.
question. Do you think the apartheid goes away without resolving the occupation?
No. of
Okay,
course not.
thank you. Okay. Do you think that if the occupation was resolved, it's highly likely the apartheid would go away?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I
So
don't
then the
understand
issue
what
is
you're
not the
arguing
apartheid. Apartheid is not really what we're talking about here.
Apartheid is describing the conditions that are imposed on these people under occupation. But for Israel, it's a single state. It's all greater Israel.
Okay, do you think that if a country occupies territory from another country, without even doing timelines, without even saying, for 50 years or whatever, has there ever been a country that has occupied another country where the people in the occupied place are given all the same full rights and privileges and everything as the occupier? Has it ever happened?
I really fail to see your point here.
The point is that it would never, not only has it never happened, we wouldn't expect it to happen in an occupied territory. We wouldn't expect there to be the same rights.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the occupation can last another 1,000 years. We shouldn't expect anything, and we shouldn't call it an apartheid.
We should try
It's
to
stupid
resolve the
call it an
occupation.
apartheid.
It is stupid to call it an
Of
apartheid,
course,
but we should
people
try to
who call
resolve
it-
the occupation.
People who refer to it as apartheid are obviously interested in resolving the occupation.
Then why not just focus on the occupation instead of trying to pretend
why
like...
do you have an issue with the use of the term apartheid?
Because
It just
apartheid
doesn't make
inaccurately
sense.
assumes that you can resolve the apartheid conditions while it's an occupied territory, but you can't.
No, it doesn't assume that. You're just
Okay.
saying that. Why does it assume that?
Because
describing the reality, the
people,
political reality that people
Yes,
face.
the reality
I
is that
feel
if
like you're
some-
really trying to run away from the core of the issue. You're trying to get into some sort of semantic debate where, if a territory is considered occupied, then it can't be considered apartheid. I don't know where you got that from. That's not part of the definition of apartheid. It doesn't exclude people living under military occupation.
Okay, are you an American? Are you in the United States?
Yeah.
Okay, what would you say if I started a whole movement in the 1800s? Okay, and in the year 1800, I said we need to fight for literacy for slaves. Slaves need to be literate. It's unbelievable that they can't read.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the issue would be it's probably not the issue that slaves can't read. The issue is that they're f***ing slaves. The slavery has to be resolved, not the literacy, the slavery, right?
Slaves not being able to read is a small aspect, whereas apartheid describes the reality of 5 million people living without rights under Israel's military rule.
And the lack of education was used to...
problem.
Yeah, so is lack of education among slaves.
That was a problem. Yes. I don't understand what your argument is.
My argument is that you wouldn't fixate on, we need to teach all the
It's not
slaves to
fixating on
read.
some small
It
thing.
is. When you say apartheid,
isn't.
that's a stupid... It doesn't...
Apartheid is a pretty broad, all-encompassing term. It describes a lot of the problem. That's why people use the term apartheid, because it describes so much of what's wrong with the political situation in Israel and Palestine.
I mean, Destiny, do you think it's worth reading through the human rights report that came out? The
No.
150-page report that describes why they call it apartheid? It's not just an occupation, right? They said there was a threshold that was met at some point during this last 50 years where the apartheid conditions were met. So there's clearly a difference between occupation and apartheid, right? Now the conditions they consider apartheid based on all of the things they go over.
Does that change any of the things that I said earlier? Is the apartheid ever being resolved without the occupation being resolved? Yeah, okay, wait. Okay, I'll let you do this, but I need these two questions answered just real quick, okay? So the first thing
they're
is
one and the same. So why are you asking the question?
will the apartheid
they're
be,
one and the same, and
they're
I know
not
they're
one and the same. No, they're not one and the same because
Why are they
South
not one and the
Africa had apartheid without occupied territories. That's how they were treating citizens of their own country.
Yeah. Apartheid refers to the systems that were in place to separate and discriminate against a portion of the population.
Their population, their own citizens. Yes.
Yeah, okay, so the whites in South Africa against the black people in South Africa. In this case, it's the Jewish people in Israel against the Palestinians.
In occupied territory, in another territory.
Okay, so yes, obviously, apartheid and occupation are connected. Calling it stupid,
hold on.
I feel like
apartheid and occupation are not connected. In South Africa, nobody was saying that it was apartheid because they occupied black people.
No, I said in Israel. In what you're doing is you're trying to dismiss certain terms which are pretty accurate as buzzwords and exaggerated, not good descriptions. Even though it's a pretty apt description, it's a pretty good description. And it's a pointless argument just to dismiss people. Anybody who says apartheid, just write them off. So, okay, let me ask you another question. Do you think colonization is a buzzword that shouldn't be used?
Today it is, yeah. If you want to talk about colonization like the 40s, it's probably more apt.
So, today expanding settlements further and further through the West Bank and filling them with Jewish settlers is not colonization. You're expanding Jewish colonies throughout the Palestinian territory.
I call it territorial expansion. No, I don't use colonization because generally that's a word that if you use, you're usually a moron. So no, I stay away from the word colonization. That's exactly what I'm saying. No, because they're not colonies. It's not a colony. No, hold on. It's not
buzzwords, and anyone who uses them is a retard.
Yeah, because it is a buzzword. Are there colonies? Hold on. I'm sorry. Is Israel forming colonies in the territory of Palestine or in a different place? Like, no.
Yes, of course. That's what the settlements are. They're colonies.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right. What else do you think are buzzwords? I want to go through your... Okay, here. This is something you wrote on Twitter. Basically, you said you're insinuating that if the rockets stopped being fired by Hamas, that this situation would be resolved?
There'd be a path to resolution, yes.
There'd be a path to resolution. So all of the years when there were no rockets fired by Hamas, all the periods in between rockets being fired, there's no resolution. They move no closer to resolution. The settlements continue to expand. Palestinians are still abused and displaced, imprisoned, tortured. All of that continues regardless of whether the rockets are firing or not.
How long do they stop firing for?
Well, you'd have to look up what the longest stretch is. I mean, has
it ever lasted even a year?
Months.
Many months? Bro!
But here's because this violence, Israel's violence is, firstly, I don't know the exact number, so we can't react to a fake number.
It'd probably be good. My understanding, there's never been like a year of peace with Hamas.
But here's the problem with that take. Because the violence against the Palestinians is ceaseless. It's a constant thing. They're constantly being harassed. They're constantly being beaten and abused. Their movements controlled, being killed. So that's ceaseless. And basically the idea about putting the focus on the rockets is if these people would just bend over and take it for what? X amount of time? A year? 2 years? Do they have to bend over and take it for 5 years without lifting a finger, and then they're stamped approved for rights and self-determination?
No, I think it's just keep fighting forever. See what happens.
Okay.
How's that working out for them right now? What do you think?
Nothing's working out for them.
Oh, yeah? So more violence until they're... Yeah? How do you think it looks now compared to 2 months ago? Do you think it's better now or worse?
I think it looks as bad as it did 2 months ago.
Oh, really? The current excursion into Gaza is about as bad as it was 2 months ago?
If we're talking about the potential for them to have their own self-determination, their own state, be free from military rule, nothing's changed.
Oh, so they're as close to their own state now as they were in the year 2000 or 2008 or...
Well,
Yes,
I would say they're
which means they
actually-
weren't close at all.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I would say they're closer now because I haven't heard Biden talk about two states since he became a president until what, October 7th. Now he's calling for two states. So you can argue that violence is the only thing that has ever made the public opinion.
How much money do you want to bet on a solution? I'll give you 10-1 odds on a two-state solution materializing in the next 5 years.
I don't want to bet on that.
I mean, neither.
Okay. They're no closer. That's a delusional point. That is
the
one of the
point
most
being-
unbelievable things I've ever heard in my life. There's,
Yeah, because I'm not saying they're any closer. I said they're no closer. There's no difference. The power with the party with the political power is obviously Israel and the United States. The Palestinians don't hold political power. They never did. So whether they respond, whether they don't, I mean, it's impossible to say what will move them closer or further because they're not close at all.
also, Biden
Nothing changes.
apparently
I mean-
Biden has always supported two states.
Yeah, most of the world has supported two states. That's pretty universal. Israel is one of the only
Okay.
countries with a
I'm
leadership
I'm
that
curious
doesn't support
on this.
two
Back
states.
on this one point. I'm so curious. What do you think is necessary for apartheid conditions? What do you think that means? Give me some qualifiers for you.
It's a long list, so look up the list.
No, you
Look up
tell
the
me. You
description.
tell me.
Okay, but it's going to be an exhaustive list. All right.
Just give me like 5 things, I guess.
Segregating populations, subjecting them to different laws.
Segregating populations, subjecting them to different laws.
That's the meat of it. I mean,
Okay. So by this definition, if I look at every single military occupation, we'll say Germany's expansion in World War II, we'll say anybody's expansion in World War I, we'll look at Japan's expansion in the Sino-Japanese wars. If I look at any of these other wars in the past where one people have occupied another people for any period in time, we could say Russia's invasion into Ukraine right now. Would you call all of those apartheid conditions? All of that was apartheid?
So if Russia continues to occupy eastern Ukraine, separates Russians from Ukrainians, establishes Russian colonies, takes control of the resources.
Okay, wait, hold on. Wait, now we're adding a whole
bunch.
bunch of more things. Okay.
Yeah, because these
Wait.
are the things that describe apartheid.
Take control of resources.
You're saying occupation. I'm telling you, occupation is obviously a part of it. It's not about.
Okay, so then give me
simply
5. So we'll
occupation,
go
it's the
back. I'm sorry.
conditions that
Okay,
these
so let's
people
go
are
back. Let's go back
subjected
because
to.
clearly my question is confusing you now. That's fine, which I understand because you have got an undefensible position. So let me ask you again. Give me like 5 big things you would say if these things are happening, this is probably apartheid. Okay.
Okay, well.
So we
how
had
about
one
just
was
look-
segregating population. No. Why are you looking it up now? You had the strong opinion. What is that opinion based on? How are you
because
going to go
wanna give you more
retrospective?
stuff. The fundamental problem is you're segregating populations. You're subjecting them to different laws.
Yeah.
That's the and you're discriminating against one of those populations. That's the fundamental. That's the backbone of it. Now you want to give
Okay,
me,
but what
me to
you've
give you
just
all the little
described,
details.
what you've just described is every single invasion / occupation in the entire history of the world.
No, it isn't. We're
Okay,
talking
wait,
about
okay.
moving
Can you
in
give
your
me-
own population, moving in your population, establishing colonies.
Okay, so now we got moving in
expanding
your own
those colonies.
population. Okay.
In
Okay.
this case,
So
it's
3.
moving
So
in
we,
your own
oh, in
population.
this case, wait. So that doesn't always have to be the case, or
It doesn't have to be the case if your population is already there. I mean, at some point, if you're talking about South Africa, then of course, at a certain point, people came from abroad and entered that territory. But
Okay,
of
wait, can
course,
you give me
need-
an example?
need
Can you give me an
populations to
example?
separate and rule over.
can you give me an example of a military occupation that wouldn't fit this same criteria of apartheid? Like in South
Everyone.
Africa, did you have to move in your population? Like I don't even know that in South Africa that was the part of like the apartheid conditions was moving in you're literally inventing new
For
things
Israel-
to make it
for
so
Israel,
Israel's an
they have
apartheid
to-
state. You're adding new things just to make it so Israel fits.
No, that's important. Israel has to move their population into the West Bank for it to create this apartheid system. Now, you could possibly say that even if they didn't move in their population, Greater Israel would still have Jewish citizens and Arab citizens and could still be considered an apartheid. That's fair. So maybe you don't need to move your citizens in, but it just lends to the parallels.
Okay, so can you give me an
Apartheid is a
example?
good description.
I'm gonna keep
It's-
asking you of this. Okay, can you give me an example of a country that occupied another country in like a military conflict that doesn't fit all these same criteria? Give me an example of an occupation where populations weren't segregated, people weren't subjected to different laws. Can you give me an example of this? Or am I just trying to figure out, because what you're telling me, what I'm hearing, this is what I'm helping you try to get out of, okay, but you're not going to be able to get out of this. What I'm trying to help you get out of is, it sounds to me like what you're describing as apartheid is every single occupation ever.
Okay, so give me the parallel example.
And anything. The current Russian invasion into Ukraine we can go with.
Okay, so Russia has taken eastern Ukraine. It's moved Russian people in. It's subjecting Russians and
stop. I'm
Ukrainians
rejecting that.
to
Moving
different
other
laws.
people in is a new thing you're adding. That's not part of apartheid. Moving people in. I don't know where you got that from.
So if Russia functionally annexes East Ukraine and
Correct.
subjects Ukrainians to different laws and discrimination,
Yes.
that would be an apartheid system.
Correct.
Yeah.
If Russia annexes territory and then makes those people citizens and then subjects them to different laws, that would be apartheid.
No, it doesn't
yes.
have to make them citizens necessarily, but if it rules over them. And we're talking about 56 years here. So obviously the distinction between, this is just a military occupation and it's been 56 years. This is a part of your country. You've made it a part of your country, and everything you're doing demonstrates your interest in incorporating it further and further into your country.
This is all like vague. I don't even know like what.
Okay, it's not vague.
It is vague. You're like, well, if they move people over and they make them over more and more in time and blah, blah, blah.
What do you, so you're telling me describe what makes an apartheid. I describe it and you say, oh, you're saying it's about this or about, like, what is the argument here? The conditions are met for apartheid. This is how an apartheid looks.
It's not how an apartheid looks.
Okay, so that's what, okay, fine. Then let's leave that because that's what we're down to now.
Okay.
It's not. Okay.
Well, I mean, to be clear, like that's not the issue with South Africa. The reason why it was such a horrible, disgusting thing was
but
because
it's not a horrible, disgusting thing when
What?
it's the Palestinians.
No, it's not an apartheid when it's the Palestinians.
Okay, is it a horrible, disgusting thing?
Of course.
Okay.
The problem with apartheid for South Africa was that they were treating their own citizens in their country like this, that this level of separatedness was existing, and they were treating different races of people on different levels.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But in a military occupation, you would never expect people to be treated the same. That's not how military occupation works.
56 years, okay, it could be 2 centuries of military occupation. It could be 1,000 years of military occupation, and you don't expect them to treat these people any better.
Yeah, I think that when the years have gone on, obviously running into an issue, but again...
Yeah, okay, yeah, 56 years.
Yes. The problem, though, isn't the apartheidness. That's a symptom of the occupation. That's what needs to end.
It's one and the same. It doesn't matter if
it's literally not one and the same.
Apartheid needs to end, but not the occupation. The occupation needs to end, but not the apartheid.
If the occupation ends, hold on. If the occupation ends, the apartheid goes away because now it's a Palestinian state. They can do what they want with it.
Yeah, they're related. Apartheid isn't saying it's this, not that.
Okay, so apartheid is when bad things happen. Okay. I got it.
No, it's not when bad things happen.
Apartheid is when bad things happen.
It's description of the conditions.
It's literally describing nothing because I'm literally trying to figure out like what you even think apartheid means. And like for Israel, you're like adding new things. Like, well, if they move in their own people, that's not apartheid.
You told me to add more things.
I didn't. I asked you what separates this from every single military occupation ever being apartheid. Because it sounds like the definition you're giving me of apartheid could apply to every single.
Give me an occupation that's been like this. If that's the game you want to play, show me an occupation that resembles the situation in Israel and the occupied territories.
Plenty of people have occupied plenty of other people. It just hasn't gone on for this long. That's the big differentiator here is the time factor.
So you're starting to find differences. You could add some more.
If I find differences, I would probably say this is a really long occupation. Or maybe I would describe it as something unique or different. But I wouldn't use apartheid.
Yeah,
what a retarded term to use. Why would I draw something?
Because you say so.
No, it's retarded because apartheid was literally specifically created to describe the system of separation that existed. Yes. It literally means separate, I think, in Afrikaans or whatever. It literally has a word. It was specifically described for South Africa. Yes. So you're the retard when you're trying to bring it because you're like, well, this is an occupation and it's gone on for really long and it's really bad. So I'm going to go take it from South Africa.
The crime of apartheid has to do with these conditions that we described, separating populations, subjecting them to different laws, discriminating against one of those populations.
No, you keep saying populations.
No, okay.
No,
okay.
yes,
Why
no.
You keep saying over this. If you just
because you keep adding or twisting the words a little bit because you either don't know what
or twisting anything.
Yes, it doesn't mean separating populations. It means separating your population. The citizens, the people in your country, not people of other countries and not people of occupied territories.
If you rule over a people for 56 years, they're living under Israel's military rule. They can say indefinitely they're not our people, but they live under Israel's government. They live under their rule.
Destiny, in your argument, so in South Africa, if they took away citizenship from all the black people, is it no longer apartheid?
If they like took away citizenship and they like shipped them all to like another territory or some shit, then it would be.
Didn't ship them anywhere. Left them in the enclaves that they lived in their neighborhoods. Is it no longer apartheid?
If you end up creating a word for it, it would probably still be, if you're literally like taking citizenship away from people that had citizenship or something and they're living like in your country and everything.
So it's not apartheid.
It probably still would be, I would imagine.
Okay, so then the citizenship argument doesn't make sense.
The what?
The citizenship argument where they're different, they're not citizens of Israel, wouldn't make that doesn't disqualify it from being apartheid just because they're not Israeli citizens.
Okay, you're trying to reapply something. You're changing some of the fundamental aspects of what apartheid was, and then you're doing it because you just want to apply it to this situation of a very long, I admit, military occupation. That's what you're doing.
What are the fundamental aspects?
The fundamental aspects are people of your own country, your own citizens that you were treating. You've got a caste system for different races of people in your country.
Netanyahu holds up. Look at what do the Israelis refer to the West Bank as? Judea and Samaria. They filled it with their settlements. It's theirs. They don't acknowledge there's an occupation. Are you aware of that?
I mean, obviously they do because they haven't annexed it formally and they're not part of their voting.
They functionally annexed it and they don't acknowledge that they're occupied territories. Okay, so we can put that. I think we've settled that.
You haven't settled it. You haven't settled. To be clear, you don't have a functional definition of apartheid. You still can't give it to me.
I gave you the definition.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. We'll do this one more time. Okay, I'm not paying attention because I'm too emotionally invested in this point. Give me then your qualifying points for what makes us an apartheid. Tell me. Go ahead.
You have two populations that you've separated. In this case, based on ethnicity.
Wait, when you say separated, what do you mean by that?
It means they're segregated. You got walls between them. Certain people can live here. Certain people can live there. You have military making sure that they don't cross between those areas.
Okay, two populations are separated by walls.
Walls, military, however you're going to do it. It's a combination, but they're segregated, separated populations. Okay, they're subject to different laws, different living conditions. They have different rights.
That's different laws and living conditions, yeah. I'll say different rights.
Okay, that's the basis of apartheid.
Okay. Then my question is how is every single military occupation then not apartheid?
Okay, give me a military occupation that's like that then.
I don't know all the background. We can go look this up. Okay, now I'm doing your homework for you. But my question is, when Germany invaded and occupied Poland, were all the Polish people given the same rights and privileges as normal German citizens?
Well, you could potentially try to say that the Jewish people were stuck into ghettos, were living on an apartheid system. But Israel's government doesn't even acknowledge there's an occupation. For them,
wait, hold on. I'm sorry.
Country.
Hold on. For some reason, you just completely ignored what I said, and I'm sure the internet cut out or something, okay? What I'm asking is was Germany's occupation of Poland, was that apartheid?
For the Jews.
What about, did normal Polish citizens have the right to,
what about the Jews?
What? No, I don't even think you would call the Jews apartheid. No, they were being genocided.
Fine. So you have some distinction that only you can recognize but can't explain.
Okay. Oh, no. Hold on. Oh, wait. Hold on. You must have ignored the entire conversation. I can explain apartheid perfectly because apartheid was a word that was created specifically in the language that is used in South Africa to explain the system in South Africa. I can tell you exactly what I think apartheid is. Yes.
The crime of apartheid, which comes after the apartheid in South Africa, refers to imposing certain conditions on people as we've described. No, you're not telling me why those conditions don't apply, so I don't know. How long are we going to...
Because I've never heard of those conditions applying to an occupied territory.
Okay, so you
For the-
haven't
if I look at the
heard
crime of
them being
apartheid-
applied. They're applied to the Palestinians. There's 5 million of them. They've been living under Israel's rule for 56 years. And Israel doesn't consider it occupied territory. They consider it their territory. They consider it a part of Israel.
You acknowledged this was an apartheid yesterday, but you just kind of said it's like not that serious. But you're like, yeah, it's an apartheid, and also
Hold on. Oh my God! Stop. Wait. What? No. Hold on. I said that I said functionally, maybe you could argue that, or that the conditions are all similar. But the problem is not apartheid. The problem is, and I would never call it apartheid. The problem is that it's an occupation, and in a military occupation, by definition, you're not afforded the same rights as your occupiers. That's how every single military occupation in the history of the entire world has worked. So what needs to be solved is the occupation, and calling it apartheid is fucking stupid.
Why is it stupid?
Because it misses the whole point of what's happening.
Why does it miss the point? You've got 5 million Palestinians living under Israel's rule for 56 years, and they're subjected to different laws. They're segregated. They're discriminated against. Israel considers them living in Israel. They've claimed all that territory.
Okay. They haven't. They haven't annexed it. They have not formally annexed it. Like,
why don't we? Yeah, they functionally annexed it, and they've discussed formally annexing it. And if you look at the polls, most of the people who support annexation support it explicitly with privileged status for Jews. That's why other people have argued against it in Israel, because they understand that it's a formal declaration of the apartheid.
And that would be apartheid. If Israel actually annexed the territory and didn't grant those Palestinians the same right, then that would be actually apartheid. Now we have a real system of apartheid. Yes.
So until Israel signs a piece of paper saying they're apartheid, we don't call it apartheid, even if it's functionally an apartheid.
But it's not functionally apartheid. In Israel, do different races of people have different rights?
Functionally, what changes? Functionally, what changes if they say they're annexing the West Bank, but they keep everything the same?
If they functionally annex the territory, they must give the people in that territory the same status and rights as citizens proper. They have to do that.
Okay, one would believe they have to do that, but they don't have to do it if they want to carry on with their apartheid system. And that's obviously Netanyahu is not interested in annexing the West Bank and then giving 5 million Palestinians the vote. It would no longer be a Jewish state. And that's in law, 2018 nation state.
Yeah, that's why they don't formally annex it. Yes.
Yes, but they've talked about it. Why are they talking about it?
Because they probably want to figure out a way to do it. Yeah, no shit. That's their goal.
Obviously be with privileged status for the Jews. But now let's talk about...
No, it probably wouldn't be for privileged status of the Jews. This is the reason why they expand settlements where they do. It's why they're interested in like Area C. It's why they're interested in certain parts, because they want to try to... It's why they pulled back unilaterally from the Gaza Strip. The goal is to make it so that they can take parts of the territory and incorporate as many Palestinians as they can while giving them full rights, knowing that it won't threaten their demographic majority. They're doing everything they can to avoid the apartheid
full
shit.
rights? What are you talking about?
As in when they take over certain parts and they offer citizenship to Arabs in those areas, they're granted all the same and full rights that you have in the country of Israel.
Okay, Israel, I just told you, they're not. It's in their law. The Arabs don't have the national right to self-determination. Only the Jews.
How does it? What is like a right or thing that an Arab can't do? Are Arabs allowed to run for the Knesset?
There's some land, some
there's certain laws they can't move into certain areas. You can discriminate in terms of housing based on.
In Israel proper, can you give me an example of this?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I'll send you one.
Okay, he'll send it. But also, technically, based on that law, if they became too large a portion of the population, they wouldn't be allowed to. That wouldn't be allowed.
People are saying that Jewish people and Arab people aren't allowed to move into certain areas. Is that true?
It may be true. I mean, that's true of apartheid.
Okay.
You're not... White people and black people were not supposed to mix. That was not allowed. And your interfaith marriage is not allowed in Israel.
I'm pretty sure you can do interfaith marriage now. You just have
you have to go somewhere else to get married.
But yeah, I think like Montana lets you do it like online or some stupid shit, and they'll let you do it. They just don't ask questions about it.
Now, the idea that you put all the focus on the rockets, I generally want to know, what do you think the Palestinians can do that will bring them their rights and their freedom?
I already said they need to fixate on leadership. that helps them negotiate realistically towards a two-state solution. They need to stop supporting terrorists. They need to stop supporting people like Hamas. They need to stop accepting support from terrorists. And they need to work with surrounding Arab nations to come together with a peaceful agreement and settlement and a finality of the Palestinian problem in Jew land and fucking Palestine land or whatever. They have to, like, yeah.
The PLO recognized Israel. They agreed to stop launching attacks. There was supposed to be a two-state solution. That never materialized. The PLO, the creation of the Palestinian Authority, that was created by Israel and America and the PLO, and it's funded by Israel and America and allies. It's trained by them, and it has to meet Israel's security demands. And it's accomplished nothing in terms of getting them their own state or their rights, their self-determination. So
okay. I mean, if they can't even handle like the first step of creating interim government, then they're probably hopeless anyways. Then who the fuck cares? We'll just carry on for 10, 20, 30, 40 years until I guess they've all been cleansed or kicked out of the region, and that's it. That's because that's the only
that is hopeless.
That's the only path forward. What do you think? What do you think is the path forward? What do you think is the path forward? What do you think they should do?
The path forward is the U.S. government or the Israeli government, which means the people of America or the people of Israel have to push for their leaders to actually enter into good faith negotiations to get a political resolution.
What do you mean by good faith negotiations?
Good faith negotiations.
A resolution that's recognized by the entire world and
the
actually
entire world already
ignored
it.
Hold on.
Okay.
Destiny, hold on. The ICJ ruling actually word for word states, and I'm gonna quote it now. It's not me. The court would emphasize that both Israel and Palestine are under the obligation, I can't say this word, to observe the rules of international humanitarian law, one of the paramount purposes of which to protect civilian life, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to find it. Okay, this tragic situation can be brought to an end only through implementation in good faith of all relevant security resolutions, in particular 242 and 338. This is the ICJ. The whole world votes on this. Only Israel and America say no. Everyone has agreed to this except those two.
Well, the United States also
then we should just, I think every single year,
two states and the Green Line,
I think every single year,
put any pressure on Israel. They have to put actual pressure on them.
You guys win. I concede. We should just keep voting on the resolution over and over again every year, and maybe we'll come back in 50 years and that'll fix everything. There we go. Boom. There we got it.
The population of America should push.
I think we're one or two resolutions away. We just need like one or two more of these unanimous resolutions that everybody except for Israel and the United States votes on, and then we've got it, dude. Boom.
The population of America needs to push the U.S. government to put serious pressure on
Israel. The population of the United States is not going to do that when Hamas is a fucking terrorist group. So that's never happening. So eject that from your brain right now, number one. And the population of Israel isn't going to support it when Palestinians broadly support terrorism and attacks against Israeli citizens. So ignore that too. So that's never going to happen. So
there are a lot of people who are pushing for that. And the
really a lot
state solution. The two-state solution is considered like the default. Like the problem is the U.S. never puts pressure on Israel to actually make serious. Enter into serious negotiations to make it possible.
The U.S. has hosted so many fucking like accords and camps and shit to try to get people over here to figure out something else.
If you look at these so-called peace talks, what was offered, it's separating West Bank into enclaves.
It's not as good as it could have been, but you know what? Listen, when you've tried to genocide somebody 50 times and you've lost over and over again, you kind of lose a lot in your negotiating position. That's what happens.
Not a viable state, period. They want to retain control over the area between Jordan and the West Bank. It would be completely surrounded by Israel's territory and military. There would be enclaves completely surrounded by Israel. Now, if you call that a peace offering, then we can compare that to Gaza. Gaza was a peace offering, except it's surrounded by Israel's military. It's controlled by land, air, and sea. They control the Rafah crossing. They call that Egypt's border with Gaza or Gaza's border with Egypt. Really, it's Israel's border with Egypt. Gaza cannot survive without
Why do you think Israel has control over the Rafah crossing?
What do you mean why? Because they do. Because they've maintained control with Egypt. They treat it as Israel's border with Egypt.
Wasn't there
the point is, if you completely surround...
No, hold on. Didn't something happen around 2017 where Egypt had like a really big reason for wanting to shut down that crossing and not allow Palestinian terrorists to cross back and forth between that anymore, which is why Egypt is pretty hands-off and doesn't give a fuck about ever trying to open or secure that for the Palestinians? Didn't something happen around 2017 for this? Or
no, you have to go back to the beginning of the blockade. That border has never been controlled by Gaza.
I didn't say it was controlled by Gaza. I'm saying it's not controlled completely by Egypt.
And Israel.
Yeah, there you go.
It's also controlled by Egypt. Yeah, because that's how every border works. It's controlled by.
So why does Egypt have it locked off as well? Why does Egypt?
That's Egypt's prerogative, but also Egypt can't unilaterally decide what goes in and out of that border, just like Canada can't unilaterally decide what comes in and goes across the American border. The border clearly is between Egypt and Israel, not Egypt and Gaza. Gaza is not an independent entity, and my point is that's their idea of a peace offer. Completely surround them, control them, and pretend that you've given them a peace offer and they have independence. You can't have independence if you don't have your own borders, if you're completely surrounded by a hostile force that controls everything.
I'm asking why, first of all, Egypt absolutely can let things in and out. They choose not to for good reasons, because of terrorists that move in and out of there. Egypt used to send... Can't. What do you mean they can't?
They can't without Israel say so?
Israel has a military base that gets to check everything that goes through the Rafah crossing.
Why?
Why doesn't matter. The point that's
why it's because terrorists used to smuggle shit in and out of there, some of which would cause attacks in Egypt. There's a reason why Egypt
doesn't matter. It's because it doesn't matter.
What do you mean? It's because it doesn't matter.
We're talking about what is a so-called peace offering. What is their so-called independence that they're going to offer?
No, hold on. I'm just saying it's just interesting that you can't say Israel controls all sides of the border. Egypt absolutely, if they wanted to fight for their side of the Rafah border, they absolutely could. They don't want to deal with those people anymore. In 2014, they literally fucking demolished every fucking Palestinian house that was on their side of the border of the Gaza Strip. There's a reason they did this.
It's not for Egypt or Israel to decide unilaterally what goes in and out of that border. It functions like most borders do. Any border does. Both countries get to decide what comes in and out of their country.
Okay.
Gaza doesn't get to decide. Israel decides. It's
Israel's, of course, because they're ran by a terrorist group, and they've kind of ceded the right to do that. Yeah.
Because doesn't matter. The point is that's the idea of independence. That's the peace offering. These so-called peace offerings are actually plans to legitimize the status quo, which is Israel retaining control over the entirety of the region and over the enclaves which are enclosed by the Israeli military and Israeli territory. That's not a peace offering.
Why are you against? I'm just curious. Maybe you have a good reason for it, but why are you, or maybe you're not against, but what do you think of the pre-67 borders? Do you think that is not a reasonable solution with some land swaps?
I think pre-67 is fine, because that's probably
why doesn't Israel accept it? Why does Israel accept it?
Hold on. I said pre-67 is fine as like a starting point, but obviously you're going to be negotiating from the Palestinian side pretty down from this position. So I don't know what percentage of land.
They always have done. They've always made the concessions. Israel has never made concessions.
What do you mean? What do you mean Israel has never made concessions?
Name one concession outside of 242 that Israel has made.
What is a land swap?
That's not a concession. That is an illegally built settlement imposed on the Palestinians. They didn't have a choice, and now Israel's going to have to give them land back for that land that they illegally took. Is recognized by the ICJ. So there is no concessions being made by Israel. It's not like Palestine.
Wait, hold on. What is land illegally took recognized by the ICJ? Can you point me to that?
That means when I say settlements built in East Jerusalem illegally and in the West
you're saying just the construction of the settlements are illegal.
Well, yeah. So now Israel de facto wants sovereignty over those settlements and not dismantle them, right? They want to retain 80% of the settlers, or 80% of the settlers living there are all in East Jerusalem, from what I understand, and they want to keep that land. So by default, they have. It's not the Palestinians' fault that they're giving land swaps.
I think that at any point, Israel land swapping or making deals is making concessions. If they wanted, they could just formally annex. They could just cut away and formally annex whatever they want and say, "Fuck it, you guys, here's your state, good luck," and then pull out and everything and abandon it if they wanted to.
So you think Israel's concession is giving land back that they had stole from the Palestinians?
Nobody stole land from the Palestinians. When was land stolen from the Palestinians? What are you talking about?
I mean, it was all stolen. The majority of it was stolen from the Palestinians when they massacred their villages and pushed 700,000 people out.
I sure didn't say that. I never said that.
That's 80%.
You said the basis should be 242. That's what you said.
I didn't say the basis. I said that we can start at 67 because emotionally, that's what feels good for everybody. That's literally the only reason.
Let's start at 67. So if we start at 67, let's have it exactly at 67.
No, why the fuck would Israel agree to that? There's no...
Exactly. I agree they won't agree to that because they built so much illegal settlements on Palestinian territories.
Hold on. Here's a question.
That's facts.
In 1948, if the Arab states would have won the first Arab-Israeli war, would they have expelled, ethnically cleansed 95% of the Jewish people from that
So
region?
you're gonna weasel.
Okay, I'm gonna just to let you know, I'm gonna re-ask these questions every single time. Okay, let me know when you're done, and I'm gonna re-ask.
Let's go to 1948. That's fine.
Okay.
1948. You said if Arabs won the war, I think they would have expelled
90+% of the
of the Europeans. Yes, I
Okay.
don't think they would have expelled any. In my opinion, obviously, we don't have a fucking 8-ball like a magic, fucking whatever they called.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't think
Okay.
they would expel every single European.
Sure, maybe not every single one,
They'll probably
but
expel a majority of them.
okay, cool.
I would agree with that.
So in 48, they would have ethnically cleansed a majority of the Jewish people there. In 67, if they would have won that war, would they have ethnically cleansed a majority of the Jews there?
I have no idea.
Come on, bro. Okay, okay. You hold on. No, wait. I know. I understand, but I'm also
not
going to
gonna argue that.
you have to go. You need to do more research and come back to me with a more informed answer. If you don't know in 67 if they would have ethnically cleansed the majority of Jewish people
I'm
there,
not
like
interested in arguing that. I think this is all like a major deflection from the core of
That's
the
what I'm
issue.
saying. I feel like
just you
we're
can talk
deflecting from the original point.
you can talk in circles
Resolution.
endlessly about hypothetically what so and so would have done in alternate histories. We can write extensive alternate histories. We can go endlessly. It's pointless.
no. Here's what I'm
What are we
saying.
talking
Here-
about
no,
right
I'm
now?
just trying to explain the
Years.
feeling. In 1948, if the Arabs would have won the first Arab-Israeli war, they would have ethnically cleansed the majority of Jewish people there. In 1967, if they would have won the third Arab-Israeli war, they would have ethnically cleansed the majority of the Jews there. In 73, if they would have won the fourth Arab-Israeli war, they would have ethnically cleansed the majority there. To lose all four of those wars, and then for Egypt to declare peace, and then to say, okay, can we go back to the borders that we had in 48 after we failed to ethnically cleanse you 3 times? Do you understand how stupid that sounds as a starting point for negotiations?
Alternate history. We can write a whole
Wait,
alternate
hold on.
history. and
What
we
part
can
of this
put
is
in
alternate
anything
history?
we want.
That was the stated goal in
that's
every
literally-
single war, in every single conflict.
Percy, that's
what
literally
ended
what you're
up
doing is
happening
writing
is-
alternate history, and I'm not interested because
Yeah.
there's not going to be any resolution. We're going to bark back and forth at each other about.
Okay,
whose
well then
alternate history is more
bringing up
reasonable.
67 borders is alternate history because right now we don't live there. They lost in 67. They don't have those borders.
It's not alternate history. The international consensus is that
Oh, now okay.
a two-state solution should be established along the Green Line.
Hold on. This is very important. Destin, you keep saying war, war, war. First of all, 48 happened before the 49 armistice lines. We agree on that. Armistice lines was the end of the war. That's where they signed all their treaties. Okay, we're at peace. Then what happened is during the 67 war, and when Israel took the land from Jordan at the time, and has been building settlements there ever since. That's when 242 said, "Hey, it's inadmissible to take land from another country during a war." We've had this argument yesterday about what is considered who owned the land before, but not an interesting conversation. The conversation now is since the 80s, since 89 exactly, the whole world has agreed. Okay, guys, solve this problem. Before there was a Hamas, they said, "Let's solve this problem." The solution was 67 borders, and Israel has never agreed to that. Never. Palestine agreed to it in 88. Israel has never, ever agreed to that. That's the problem. And until Israel agrees to that, they have no moral standing because they're the ones
They
maintaining
have perfect moral standing, bro. They got moral standing to kick even more people out. Fuck, these guys tried to genocide them 3 or 4 times, and now that they've lost, and now that the Soviet Union has collapsed, and the only people backing them are terrorist
Listen,
groups,
if
they're
I-
like, can we roll the clock back 70 years and pretend that we're back there again? Of course you don't have any. Hold on. I just want to be ultra clear. Hold on, wait. Just to be ultra clear, Palestinians have zero moral standing right now for any territory. They should probably just leave and go to the surrounding countries. They tried genocide 4 times and they lost every single time, and now the people that were backing them are gone, and now they're saying, can we roll the clock back? Where's the moral standing there? That's insane.
Yeah, okay. Palestinian children being bombed into a million pieces have no moral standing. You're right.
No, but
5
the
million
Israeli
people living
partiers
under
that come
military
from
rule.
Germany and shit, they absolutely should get raped and
No,
shoved into fucking Gaza
5 million
and executed. And
5 million people born under military rule, living under military rule for 56 years. They have no moral standing. Yeah.
I'm sorry, do you think being a victim gives you moral standing to make negotiations for borders?
You have a moral standing to advocate for your own rights.
With
Your own
rockets?
freedom.
Forget moral standing.
I'm not
What you
talking
said,
about
Destiny,
with rockets
if I-
or with this or that, because my belief is that nothing is getting them closer, and that it's entirely on the United States and Israel to produce a solution.
Okay, well, when you look at the history of the region, as much as I hate to appeal to it, conflict lost the Arabs over and over and over again. The only thing that helped any of these states secure a lasting peace was them saying, hey, Israel, maybe we should stop fighting. And then when they did it, Israel was like, okay, sure. And then they stopped.
Okay. So you're falsely assuming that the Zionists, when they conceived of the whole Zionist movement, were willing to collaborate with the native population. They had zero interest in that. If you read their writings, they refer to them as the natives, but they never once talk about negotiating some kind of settlement with them.
Then why is it that in 47, why did they accept a partition plan that had 45% of the Arabs living in their territory?
Okay, so if you read Ben Gurion, he's the first prime minister of Israel. If you read what he wrote about it, it was very unpopular. Just so you know, the partition plan among the Zionists, it was not popular. Ben Gurion approved of it because he said it's going to make us stronger to have a partial state. And from that point, from that position of strength, we will go on to conquer the country in its entirety. And of course, they did do that.
In 1947, you told me, you said they didn't want to work with or live with any of the Arabs. And in 47, they accepted a partition plan where 45% of their population would have been Arab Palestinians.
Okay, firstly, that would have been their population if they didn't ethnically cleanse the Palestinians, if there was no population transfer, which there was a lot of talk about.
The ethnic cleanse transfer came after the Civil War. It was a response to the Civil War from 47 to 49.
It was during.
Yes,
it was
because there was a Civil War.
Before the war. Yeah.
No. Hold on. It was before the 48 War of Independence.
Yes.
It was during the 47 to 49 Civil War of Palestine. Yes.
No, 47 to 48. Yeah, that's when they ethnically cleansed 100,000 Palestinians. The Arabs didn't enter until after the Zionist forces had already ethnically cleansed over 100,000 people. And that 47 partition plan, it was giving away the major cities, coastline, hundreds of thousands of Arabs lived there. And also, it simply would not have been possible. Zionism would have failed if they maintained a 50% Arab population. It would have been a complete, unambiguous failure.
Well, damn, then maybe they should have tried. Now,
state.
imagine if they tried that and accepted it, and then after accepting it, Israelis started to ethnically cleanse people from within their own borders.
Why should we imagine if they agreed to give away their cities and their land and their homes?
Because earlier you got mad at me about giving you the hypothetical. What would have happened if the Arabs would have won any of the 4 Arab-Israeli wars? You're like, well, I can't imagine a different history. Now you're giving me a fantastic. You are. You're giving me a history of when the Arabs never attacked, Israel would have expelled all those Arabs anyway. You don't know that. You have no proof of that. And I can give you some proof to the contrary.
That? Yeah, we can assume that maybe they would have just stopped right there at 80%, obviously well beyond what was in that partition plan, but they would have stopped right there and left it alone. Except they did go on to take it all. But
after everybody declared war against them.
That's why they attacked their neighbors.
No, not until they declared war. Because guess what? The neighbors didn't care until they declared themselves a nation. Why? People say like, oh, the Arab nations attacked in response to the Nakba. No, bullshit. They attacked in response to the 48 Declaration of Independence. If the Arab nations were going to attack in response to the Nakba, why didn't they attack in 47 when it started? Why didn't they attack in 1947 when the Civil War started?
Until the British withdrew. But
until Israel declared independence in 48.
Yes, that was the same day the British withdrew. It was on the same day.
And you think in 47 they couldn't have attacked earlier if all their poor Palestinian brethren were being attacked?
Well, okay. Clearly attacking while the British were in there would have been a more controversial move.
Why? They were already all fighting and killing each other anyway, and the British. Nobody liked the British at that point. The Arabs and the Jewish people were fighting and attacking the British.
Minds of all the neighboring Arab countries, and let's discuss that till the end of time, but it's not really going to take us anywhere.
Oh, okay.
The point is that Israel and the Zionist movement have always wanted to take. It's always been a movement.
Yeah,
to
listen, I understand. I know we've ran this Cope argument from pro-Palestinian people a million times, but the reality is you can't show that because any time Israel would have had territorial aspirations, it was always preceded by some insane Arab shit. So it's hard for me to say like they would have done it otherwise. It's hard to prove that.
Shit. Okay. So this is the way you see it because you don't see anything Israel does. So it's always the Arabs attack and then Israel responds. So when Moshe Dayan, he was the defense minister in Israel, is saying that they're sending a tractor into disputed Syrian territory.
Oh, the Syrian shit. First of all,
yes.
wasn't this in the 70s or the 80s? This is way after.
No.
Okay.
This was before they captured the Golan Heights. They send it into disputed territory. They try and get the Syrians to fire. Once they fire, then they hit them with artillery, with
yeah, I can go. I've seen the one news article. You might have even been the guy that looked at. I can go back and look at the source of that again. But
he was the defense minister.
What?
He was the defense
I know
minister.
who Diane
is. And he
said
they captured it purely at the behest of land-hungry farmers and army men.
Only at the behest. You don't think it had to do with the fact that place was used as like a staging ground for attacks? Wasn't that some of the bloodiest fighting?
He said that 80% of the border clashes were instigated by Israel, meaning they wanted to fight there. That was the whole point. That's what they were doing on that border.
Okay, do you, first of all, even if I take this one, hold on, wait, stop. Even if I take that one news article seriously, which it sounds like bullshit to me, but I can try to it is one article that I've seen with that one quote from Dayan saying that Israel was actually trying to provoke all the conflict on the border to the north or whatever. So even if I take that.
Other places too.
Okay, what other places?
We can talk about Jordan, where the Jordanians were shooting at liberation soldiers heading into Israel. They were killing more of them than Israel was, and Israel led an incursion into Jordan and destroyed a bunch of houses and killed a bunch of people.
Wait, what are you talking about?
The liberation fighters entering Israel from Jordan.
What? Give me years. I need years. Wait, which part of it? What are we talking about? Which years are we talking about? What are you talking about right now?
Pre-1967. The point is this. There was tension at the borders. It wasn't one way. It was also Israel was also instigating and attacking too.
Sure, there were absolutely tensions on the borders.
And
yes,
obviously, we know that if you conquer a territory, and 80% of the native population of that territory you forced out, to expect it to just cleanly end, like nobody's gonna come back. Your neighbors should handle it. Your neighbors are now taxed.
Oh, really? Because that's what the Jews did throughout the entire Arab world. Was it's like almost 1 million of them left all of the other Arab countries? They didn't ask for their shit back. A lot of them lost all their property, all their money. They didn't get any fucking refugee bullshit. They didn't get any just compensation. They didn't ask for anything back.
So if the Arab countries are to say, "Oh no, the Jews have no right to come back here," I would disagree with that.
Okay, they're not going to say that. They want them to go back there so that they can kill them and pogrom them. I mean.
Okay, and obviously they were not all expelled, as you know. They immigrated.
Can you? Okay, hold on. Let's start on this point, okay? Because you're a jumper. I see what you're doing here. You're a jumper.
Can you give me an example? You jumped to that.
Can you give me an example? Can you give me an example? Because one of these points I made was, can you give me an example of some huge Israeli action that wasn't preceded by some Arab antagonism first, like some big territorial conquest or something? Did any of this happen?
I just gave you the Golden Heights.
The Golan Heights. They captured in the 6-Day War.
Yeah, and by the way, this is the problem with trying to understand the issue.
No, wait. Can we just focus on this one thing? In the Golan Heights, wasn't this
Let me explain.
Okay.
This is the problem with trying to frame everything as this happened, then this happened as a response. Because then you go earlier and that happened, and you go earlier and that happened, because it was constant. We'd have to go back endlessly every year.
I agree with you. But here's the thing that I'm looking for, okay? And this is what I think I've challenged Axel to do this as well, okay? And I don't think he's been able to do this yet. If there were a lot of points in history where all of the Arabs were like, hey, can we please like chill on this or make peace here? And Israel was like, actually, fuck you. We're going to keep fighting. Then I'd be like, oh, okay, shit. The Arabs did want to make peace at some point. But I don't see that happening ever. It's always fight. But then when the Arabs do suggest peace, Israel jumps on it.
The Palestinians have wanted to make a two-state solution based on the pre-67 borders for a long time.
When did that start?
Egypt offered to give back the Sinai in exchange for Israel, in exchange for recognizing Israel. They wanted Israel to return the Sinai.
Yes.
They didn't agree. They didn't agree until after they were attacked. So ask for peace doesn't work. Attack worked.
Wait, hold on. Wait, when are you talking about? When?
Before the Yom Kippur War, Egypt had extended the offer to recognize Israel in return for the Sinai being returned to them.
I don't think that happened. Under Nasser? Or after Sadat came in? Before 73, Egypt was offering peace to Israel in exchange for the Sinai? I would need to see that.
To recognize Israel, yeah.
Okay, I have to see that. I'm so curious.
Israel...
Okay, while he does that, Destiny, since we jumped back to 48, my question to you is, now we're trying to solve a conflict, right? There's a conflict that's been going on. We're trying to solve it. We're trying to find a solution. Mm-hmm. And we like going back to 48 isn't very productive, because if you go back to 48, I'm going to go back to 1912 when.
But we have to go back to 48, don't we?
Okay, then we have to go back to the Balfour Declaration.
Yeah, but wait, you want to go back to 48. When you're saying 67 borders, you're going back to 48.
No. I'm going back to when since the 80s. No, actually since 67 when they declared 242 as the end of this solution. Arabs said no, Israel said no. Over time, now now essentially the whole world is saying yes. Besides 242, my question is, why didn't Israel just, like, don't you think any other country invading another land would just take the entire land and make all the people their citizens and just rule over them, like every empire ever? Why hasn't Israel done that? Like, that's why there's
because they're doing, first of all, they would either kill them or just ethnically cleanse them. Okay, number one, historically, or number two, they would just rule over them as second-class citizens.
When you say historically, like weren't Jews living there for like hundreds of years under Muslim rule?
No,
So,
when I say
I don't
first of all, it was a
understand.
super minority. But when I say historically, and they were living as different citizens, they were dhimmi there, right, under the Ottoman Empire. They weren't.
Didn't they have their own under Ottoman Empire? Didn't they have their own self-governance?
They explicitly did not have self-governance.
Wasn't
Well, no. I think they were allowed to run like some of their own courts, and they could participate in some forms of government. But I'm just saying that, like, historically, no. Hold on. Hold on. The contrapositive. You're saying that armies invaded people, and then once an army invaded, those people historically were granted full rights to the kingdom that invaded them? You think that happened historically ever?
I'm saying I don't know a single time where, until today, actually, like.
Oh, let me give you a
That's
counter
what I'm
argument. I
asking.
would say probably every time. I would say probably every
wait.
single time in history,
Last
when somebody
30 years.
invades and takes over like a whole bunch of areas and conquest, they don't give them. First of all, democracy is a relatively recent invention, okay, in terms of the way that it's applied today. I don't think that countries conquered other tons of people and then immediately granted all of them full rights to the process to elect their leaders or monarchs. I don't think that happens. What do you think?
Not like their own leaders, but become a part of the country.
Yeah, in apartheid
Like, right now,
conditions, like they didn't become normal citizens, my dude.
Wait. So right now in the U.S., when we talk about Native Americans, they eventually became U.S. citizens, right? Are you telling me that eventually, like, Palestinians are going to become Israeli citizens that are living there? Do you think that's ever going to be the plan?
No, but if there were 250 million or if there were 400 million Native Americans, I don't know if we would have made all of them equal citizens either.
Okay.
Do you think we would have? Can you answer that? If there were 400 million Native Americans, would we have made all of them American citizens?
Probably not right away, but I think in modern times, like in 2023, yes, I do. I can't imagine us in the U.S. like subjugating the people that were living here before us to like inferior in any way, or like holding them and giving them different rights and having them live under military order. But Destiny, can you just, like, are you able to even like acknowledge that Israel doesn't want a Palestinian state, hasn't wanted one for the past 15 years, even more than that, right? The Likud government hasn't showed any interest in the Palestinian state, and what's happening today on the ground in the West Bank and Gaza Strip is horrendous, and it's being perpetrated by Israel. Is that
I'd dump all the moral loading. Has Israel been interested
Do you agree
in?
with all that?
I'll agree with that if you agree that Palestinians haven't been interested in peace either. Sure, neither side has been, and I think that's borne
I
out
would
in
say
all
the
the polling data
Palestinians
as well.
haven't been okay, hold on. I think Palestinians became interested in peace in 1988 when they recognized Israel as a state, when they declared their independence, and when they recognized a two-state solution. That's when I think. Before then, I would agree with you.
Okay, we
I
need
would
to
say,
have a
yeah,
code
they
word
want
when you do
Israel.
this trick that every pro-Palestinian does. We need to have a code word for this, okay? So think of a fun word that I can use. When every single time you say, they wanted peace, they recognized peace, they pushed for peace, what you really mean to say is they were willing to settle with Israel if they had an unlimited right of return to the proper Israel. Because that's what you mean when you say that. You're trying, because you do this equivocation. No, hold on. You equivocate on they wanted peace to try to say like, oh, well, they were reasonable. They wanted to negotiate some blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. They wanted an infinite right of return. That's not like they were interested in peace.
Okay, here's the problem with that, Destiny. Oslo and Camp David were both on the basis of 242 and 338. There was no call for 194, and 194 is what calls for all refugees to return. So I would agree with you if every single one of these conversations that Palestinians have been having hasn't been for 7 million refugees to return.
Okay,
It's
can
never
you
been
give me,
that.
when did Palestinians start arguing for a peaceful resolution that didn't involve a full right of return?
I would say when the first real attempt at peace happened since 88, so it'd probably be Oslo, where they didn't ask for every single Palestinian refugee to return.
Wait, I'm sorry, say that last thing again? Or repeat that?
Since Oslo is my answer. So since Oslo, Palestinians have always conceded to not returning every single refugee. There was always been
Okay,
concessions
have
like,
you,
okay,
sure.
maybe we'll return this many.
Okay, have you found or given any new evidence then to show that Arafat or the Palestinians were negotiating in good faith in 93 to 2000? I'm sure you saw that post on the subreddit that showed that you were reading the One Peace Initiative basically completely backwards, right?
Oh no, I don't. So the Peace Initiative, I think there was two reasons for its rejection. One is the borders, and one is the refugees.
Well, so for instance, when you sent me that one document,
hold on,
okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, the document I was 100% wrong on. I didn't read through it. I just assumed it was all like Israeli. So like, yeah, I can see that.
Hold on, wait, hold on. There's a crucial, wait, hold on. No, because what you just said was not. Wait.
And it was partially Israeli reservations in that one doc.
Okay. Okay. There's psychological things that I can do to ascertain the state of mind of a person, and it has to do with causality, okay? I don't know how to make other people understand this, or I don't know if everybody sees this, but sometimes you or other people will say or argue with things where it makes you question what's going on, okay? Let me say something, okay? If somebody says, I hate Frank because I saw Frank murder 22 children when I was in San Francisco last week, okay? And then let's say that I analyze this person's past, blah, 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 and I go, wait a second, hold on. Not only were you not in San Francisco last week, you didn't even talk or see Frank for anything. And then they were like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. After I accused him of that though, like he said a lot of mean things to me, so I don't like him, right? Now, when somebody says that, now I know that for you, it's just like, oh, well, it's just a fact they got wrong or blah, 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 blah. I'm not, wait. I'm not focused now on the fact that you got a thing wrong. The thing is that you'd built a significant part of your narrative off of this fact that ended up being, not only was it not right, you didn't know anything about it at all. So now I have to wonder, how did you have, well, no, wait. Well, sure, but let me just be clear on what happened before you try to rewrite any of this, okay? Is you had told me that initially, when these negotiations broke down, Israel was the one acting in bad faith because they sent a 20-page letter of reservations back, and the Palestinians only.
Clip from the video of what I said.
Sure.
If I can say that I went and I rewatched it, and what I said exactly was, neither side was more bad faith than the other, and they both made reservations. Those were my exact words. You can say you can go back and watch the VOD. That's
wait, hold on. Wait, did you have a clip of it? Because I thought I remember you saying that.
I'm happy to give you the clip.
Okay, because I thought I heard you saying that Israel was the one that was super bad faith because they sent a 22-page long list of reservations, but it was actually like 4 pages, and the Palestinian was 5 pages. That was all part of this thing.
They each sent 10 pages, from what I understand now. Okay, but when I said that they both had reservations, what I was so upset at is what Clinton said is one side has had reservations outside the parameters, and the other side had reservations within the parameters. Okay, that's what. And then at the end of it, I said, I'm not saying one some reservations are worse than others. I'm saying the fact of the matter is both sides had reservations, and Palestinians didn't just walk away. Palestinians were the ones that were asking for a map, which when you were reading it and you were thinking, as I was, you were thinking it was Palestine or Israel is saying that. That's what I thought too. You said, oh yeah, of course they're going to ask for a map. Now that you know that it's Israel, or that it's Palestinians, then it's like a problem.
I didn't follow. Hold on, I don't follow any of that at all. So,
okay, summary. I thought the whole document was Israeli reservations. Now I realize the first part of the document was Palestinian reservations. The second part was Israeli reservations. That's, I think, what it is. Right?
Okay, but the issue is whose reservations were within the boundaries of the parameters set by Clinton, right?
But remember. You said, your words was, the fact that Arafat had sent reservations was him nuking the deal. That's what you said.
Hold on. What I said was,
Pull that up.
Obviously, we're not going to look for the clip. If you want to find it, if somebody can link me the VOD yesterday, we can look for it. I said, and the example I gave for contract negotiations was that if you delay, and then you send back something saying, like, I have all these issues for these huge questions relating to negotiations, then it seems like, oh, okay, well, fuck, this is fucked now. There's no chance that you're going to make any of this right.
It doesn't matter what it said. You said it doesn't matter what the reservations are. You're asking a bunch of questions all this time after the fact. You're nuking the deal.
Hold on. I'm so sorry, sir, but that is not true. Because again, I literally gave an example of negotiating contract. If you are trying to wiggle on a few terms, hey, well, what about, can we change this cash advance here? Or can we change this particular deal here? You can absolutely have some reservation to let it go back. But the issue that I have, and I remember specifically reading on the Wikipedia, the issue I had was he was asking super broad questions. And then my question was, well, hold on, was anything negotiated at all? Or what the fuck happened? Then you brought up the lack of maps. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe nothing was negotiated at all. But if you want, now that we have the actual letter and we could sit here and read it, and I've seen the review here, it seems like the issue was the Israeli people had some reservations that did seem to fit inside of the Clinton parameters, but the Palestinians had reservations that, whoa, guess what, had to do with right of return, and that they said that they weren't going to accept any deal. On page 5 of the PDF, the Palestinian side still wants to give refugees a choice to return to their homes and says that this choice is a prerequisite for the closure of the conflict. Oh, the whole infinite right of return comes up again.
Wait, hold on. Actually, I don't think that they asked for a full right of return. I think there was just like a reference to it saying that, I think in Bill Clinton's parameters, he was calling for the right of return to the newly found Palestinian state. The Palestinians were like, wait, well, we need to have some kind of right of return to also Israel proper, because that's what 194 calls for. Now, I don't know if you're against full right of return or not.
Obviously, I'm against it, yes.
Okay, my whole point with the Clinton parameters as a whole was that Palestinians didn't walk away. That was my whole point. Okay, that was the point I was trying to convey.
Wait, what?
It's not like they just walked away from and said, fuck you guys.
Wait, for which thing?
From the Clinton parameters.
Well, they did. If the Clinton parameters were these, and you're trying to negotiate outside the parameters, that's called walking away.
Here's the problem, Destiny. Here's the problem.
I'm going to repeat that exact same point and ask you the same question when you finish this. Just letting you know, but go ahead. Or you can answer, or you can respond to that point, so I'll just repeat it. Because if the parameters are, here's the things we agreed to, and then afterwards you're like, well, guess what? I actually don't agree to that. At the end of negotiations, that's called walking away, because you're outside of the parameters.
Actually, they both accepted with reservations. How we define inside and outside of the parameters, we can have a more nuanced discussion. What that means exactly. Does any additional territory... So when Bill Clinton, for example, says 95 to 97% of the West Bank, and the Palestinians are like, wait, what about Jerusalem? Like, does all of Jerusalem... Like, so if you're saying that only Israeli neighborhoods go under Israeli sovereignty, that's more than 97, like 95 to 97%. So the whole parameters changed. So we need to define, like, what does that mean? When is it outside of the parameters, and when is it within the parameters?
Well, we can read the parameters, and if you want, then we can read the PDF, and you could tell me what you feel like the.
Sure, I can tell you what I feel like the Israeli side is outside of the parameters, and you can tell me what the Palestinian side's outside the parameters. The
two of you are basically just like re-arguing the peace talks among yourselves. There's no point.
My final point is this,
so I see details. I see here, Jerusalem. According to the parameters, Israel would gain sovereignty over the Western Wall. The Palestinians would gain sovereignty, and Israel would gain symbolic ownership over the rest of the Temple Mount, with both parties sharing sovereignty over the issue of excavations under the Temple Mount. East Jerusalem and its old city would be divided according to ethnic lines, with Israel gaining sovereignty over Jewish settlements and the Palestinians gaining sovereignty over Arab neighborhoods.
Boom! Wait, stop right there.
Okay.
So you just read a very crucial part, with both parties sharing sovereignty over the issue over the excavations under the Temple Mount. Hold on, East Jerusalem and its old city would be divided according to ethnic lines. That's the problem, because under again UN Security Council, East Jerusalem belongs to the Palestinians. So when Clinton
hold on, I'm reading. These are the parameters. I don't care about the UN or any resolutions. I wipe my ass. We're not talking about that right now. We're having a real conversation about real deliberations right now, not UN resolutions.
This discussion is particularly pointless because Israel, America, the Palestinians can't even agree on what was offered in those talks. So you're talking about disputed information.
Literally every single person in the world, even the caller, even Axel doesn't deny this. Everybody thinks that Arafat was a fucking loser that dicked around and fucked around constantly. Everybody agrees with that. Everybody agrees with it.
I'm not talking about whether you think Arafat's a loser. What I'm saying is, if you're trying to comb over the details of the discussions, those are disputed, and there's no point. It's just going to be an endless discussion.
Wait, let me just tell Destiny why it's disputed. So, Destiny, Clinton says 94 to 96% of the West Bank will go to the Palestinians, right? You were just reading it. It was in the parameters you were reading. Where, when you think West Bank, does that include East Jerusalem? Because it's pretty much it's like attached to the West Bank.
When you say West Bank doesn't include East Jerusalem, no, Jerusalem is generally in every single preceding argument I've ever seen. Jerusalem is usually spoken differently, or it's spoken separately from the West Bank.
So when you say but do you see how this is misleading? he doesn't give a percentage for Jerusalem because of all the Israeli settlements that have been built in East Jerusalem.
No, stop. I reject this. I reject this. No, your argument is ahistorical. Every time Jerusalem has been spoken about, I'm pretty sure, even in the 47 partition plan, Jerusalem is spoken about as a separate entity from the West Bank and any other territory. We can go back and look that up. Historically, if you want to prove me wrong, you need to say something. What?
You read this and you say, oh, 94 to 96% of the West Bank goes to Palestinians. That's a pretty sweet deal. And they get the entire Gaza Strip. That's a pretty sweet deal. Oh, but we're gonna divide ethnic lines.
Yes, that is how Jerusalem has always been spoken about.
Basically, completely.
Well, internationally, East Jerusalem is considered
exactly.
No one cares internationally. Internationally, they don't care. No one cares.
No, you don't care.
No, of course they do.
You don't care.
The U.S. wouldn't put its embassy in Jerusalem for a very long time. It was a big shift under Trump that he said he'd move it.
Because Trump doesn't count because Trump is fucking retarded.
It's been a central point.
It has been a central point. But what I'm just saying is historically, when you talk about the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, and Israel, Jerusalem is generally treated separately from all of these other things.
No.
I have never heard. No. Oh, then show me and I'll be wrong. Show me and I'll be wrong. Go ahead.
I will tell you. I'll show you.
No, don't tell me. Show me. Don't tell me. No. I don't care what you say because everything you interpret ends up not being right. So show me the document or show me the thing where they just talk about the West Bank and they really are including Jerusalem in that. I've never heard that before. I'm pretty sure in the 47 partition plan, when Jerusalem was talked about, Jerusalem as a whole was going to be a UN administrated territory. Like Jerusalem is going to be like a non-controlled zone. Like it's always treated separately from every other part of the negotiations. It's the whole thing.
I see what you're saying. You're saying that in terms of language, they say East Jerusalem and the West Bank. Okay, yeah.
Yes,
no, I understand.
I'm saying that if somebody said in 1980, okay, well you're going to get 100% of the West Bank. If you heard that as a Palestinian, you would think I get 100% of the West Bank. Okay, fine, that's cool. What are we doing about Jerusalem though? You would never assume that the West Bank includes East Jerusalem. Jerusalem as a whole has always been treated separately in all of these agreements.
It did include East Jerusalem originally before it was captured. It included East Jerusalem.
No, in 47, in the initial partition plan, Jerusalem
I'm saying before it was captured, when you had the armistice lines, that part of West Bank was East Jerusalem.
Sure. But that's just because it was all part of
the Israelis captured it. One of the first things they did when they took East Jerusalem is they bulldozed the Moroccan quarter to make a plaza for the Western Wall.
Yeah, I mean, okay, those are just all incidences. There's a lot of incidences that happen, but the point that I'm trying to make, and the main point that I'm trying to make, is since '88, only Israel and the U.S. has consistently rejected a solution to this conflict. Only those two.
Okay, you're just wrong, and you've given me no compelling evidence to show that otherwise. So you can keep repeating that.
Is Israel has never agreed to go to what you agreed is should be the basis because of some moral, whatever you call it.
I never agreed that 67 should be. I said that's the point that we start evaluating from. I never said that we start there at 0% is 67 borders. That's insane. I've never said that.
It goes beyond just 67 borders. They've never offered a viable state, which is what I would have talked to you about. But then I was looking for that quote about Sadat's offer. But if you look at the borders they offer, they're not viable. It can't be a state. So those aren't real peace talks.
I mean, Destiny's
you can't have a viable state consumed by.
Destiny says they should have just took Camp David, even though it looked like trash.
Well, that's just the status quo. That's not anything. They're not getting anything.
Okay, well, the rest of the Arab leadership thinks that that Arafat was insane for walking away from Camp David, and that deal, especially what came after Intifada, that is absolutely true. I'm sorry. Wait, show me.
I don't want to debate one by one.
Show me any Arab leader besides fucking Assad that is saying Palestinians, oh, you absolutely should not accept any of these deals.
I don't want to go down this wild goose chase of finding every Arab leader's opinion. Okay. I don't care. The point is, it's not a viable state if you're completely consumed by the territory of Israel.
Okay, you know what?
And we've seen that with Gaza. It's not a viable state.
Why didn't Arafat make a counter offer at Camp David in 2000?
You're saying why? I'm not trying to get into Arafat's negotiating strategy.
I can answer that.
I'm not interested in negotiate. Yeah, we can talk endlessly about why didn't Arafat do this, why didn't Arafat do that, and we can do that with Hamas too. Let's talk endlessly about why didn't Hamas do this, why didn't Hamas do that. What's the point?
Okay, so this is just a really simple question. The important thing is that Israel obviously is the powerful party in this. I don't give a fuck.
Okay,
No,
you don't
forget
give a
about the
fuck, but
powerful
anybody with any
Forget about
logic
the powerful party.
in the United States who wants to bring about an actual political solution would pressure their government to put pressure on Israel, because Israel obviously has the upper hand in negotiations. The Palestinians have nothing. So Israel is not willing to offer the Palestinians a viable state. Israel doesn't want to offer them anything. Israel is holding 5 million Palestinians under violent subjugation, 56 years of military rule. Israel has no intention of relinquishing those territories. It's part of Israel, according to Israel.
Okay, so in that case, if Israel makes an offer for some sort of territory, shouldn't it be a good idea for Palestinians to negotiate?
If Israel makes an offer for some sort of territory?
Yeah, if they're making an offer.
What does that mean, makes an offer for some sort of territory?
Like the 2000 Camp David Accord.
I just said it wasn't an offer; it was the status quo. Except getting the Palestinians to sign off on the status quo. That's not an offer. They need if it's not a viable state, if they want to separate West Bank into enclaves surrounded by Israeli territory, then that's not offering anything. That's what they had.
Okay, so make a counter argument.
It's a joke. It's a joke of what it was.
What do you mean? That's what they've had. To be clear, the Palestinians never had anything. They don't. So they're starting from nothing. They really had nothing ever, and now it's giving them something.
No, it's not something if it's completely surrounded by and controlled by Israel.
How is it completely surrounded and controlled by Israel? What do you mean? They share a border with Jordan and Syria.
How is Gaza controlled by Israel? No, they wouldn't have their own border. That's my point.
Why not? They share a border with Egypt. It's not just Israel, and they got a whole fucking ocean there.
No, okay, firstly, with Gaza, see how much good that border with Egypt has done. It's Israel's border with Egypt.
Well, stop shipping weapons and terrorists into Egypt then. Maybe stop doing terrorism all the time and people will treat you a little differently. It's so easy. Try that.
Maybe if you didn't brutalize and oppress and kill and kidnap and torture.
Egypt didn't oppress and brutalize and kill and torture the people of the Gaza Strip. Why are they terrorisming in Egypt? Jordan didn't brutalize all the people in the West Bank. Why did they try to terrorize fucking Jordan? What do you mean?
Okay, but they're not doing that right now.
No, not right now, because they got kicked the fuck out. They got ejected.
You're talking about clashes between the PLO and the Jordanian king. What's the point? We're talking about 2023. We're talking about nearly 60 years of military rule and violent subjugation. That's what we're talking about. Why are we talking about everything else but the thing that actually
well, if
matters?
you want to go back to the past 15 years, it's been thousands of rockets, I think, on average, every single fucking year. If you average it all out, like
every single year, Israel kills Palestinians. Every single year, they control their lives. They brutalize them. They humiliate them. They displace them. They expand their settlements every single year, every single week. It's endless.
Okay, so I guess there's just no. I guess it just never ends. Then I guess it's over forever.
No, it only ends.
Agrees the consensus.
It only ends when Americans, because probably Israelis are not interested in. If you poll them, they're not interested in challenging the status quo. Americans do support the two-state solution. Americans have to pressure their government because the U.S. is the big player in this. The U.S. calls the shots. If the United States government puts serious pressure on Israel to pursue a political settlement, then we could actually be done with this thing.
Okay, that's never going to happen. So it's just never getting solved, I guess.
Okay, great. So it's never going to happen. So nothing's ever going to happen. You just have a nihilistic view. These people can suffer, and we should.
I don't have a nihilistic view because I don't treat Palestinians like animals. You're the one that thinks that Palestinians can only do bombs and can only do terrorism for the rest of the time.
Says the U.S. government should put pressure on Israel to actually pursue a political settlement is retarded.
No one is pressuring Israel to make deals with fucking Hamas. That's never going to happen.
Okay, make deals with the PLO, make deals with anybody. And you say make deals with Hamas. I mean, you could say the same thing about the Palestinians. Why should they make deals with Israel when they massacre
Because it's in their
people?
best interest to.
Okay, and by some accounts, depending on what you think best interest means, it's in Israel's best interest to achieve peace, because a lot of Israelis don't like rockets flying into their territory. They don't like villages on the border towns getting shot up and people getting killed. They don't like the international illegitimacy, and also they're humane. They have a conscience. For the people of Israel, there are at least some that actually give a shit about the rights and the humanity of the Palestinians. So for humanity, it's in humanity's best interest to push for a political settlement. Obviously, we know Israel just wants to continue the status quo, which is brutalizing and oppressing and displacing the Palestinians. I'm not going to go along with that. I don't agree with that. And I think we should put pressure on the U.S. government to put an end to that.
That's all. That was beautiful, Chief, but it's never happening. You're never gonna get a country to make peace with some. I'm telling you, it won't happen. It hasn't happened in 20 years. Nobody's gonna make peace with a group of people that are constantly pouring rockets into their country. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, but you don't reverse the argument. because that's been happening to the Palestinians nonstop.
Really? Israel just launching fucking rockets like every single day into Palestine?
First, they raid, they massacre people, they beat them, they kidnap them. That's nonstop. They burn their homes, demolish their homes. It's nonstop, the violence. It doesn't end. There were hundreds of
then it'll just continue
Palestinians
forever.
killed in the
It'll
West
just-
Bank
it'll- then
prior
it'll-
to
it'll-
October 7th.
Yep, it'll continue forever. Yeah, and 1,000 Palestinians were killed by other Palestinians during the second and first Intifada. Like, I mean, like, yeah, it'll just never end. Then,
Okay,
like,
okay,
if
so
you want,
because
if
there
you
was
care,
civil
here, listen,
war,
if you care,
it's
if you
all
want,
okay.
here's what can happen. And the Palestinians are, if you want autonomy for a group of people, here are 3 things the Palestinians can do. They can stop supporting Hamas. They can stop accepting help from people like the Houthis, the Hezbollah, or Iran, okay? And they can work on democratizing themselves or choosing leadership that represents them, that moves them towards peace while not being violent. Those are 3 things that every single Palestinian can contribute to right now. And those things alone would get you, probably in 5 years, to a strong position to be like, hey, something needs to change now. The blockade is immoral. There's no good reason for it. The settler violence in the West Bank is insane and it's unhinged. And the territorial expansion needs to stop so that we can negotiate for a two-state thing. That all of those things can happen if the Palestinians... Hold on. Do you acknowledge that if the Palestinians did those 3 things, that would be the path they would be on?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Before Hamas, this was what was happening. Nothing changed. Where do you think Hamas came from? You think they came out of the ether? They materialized from nothing?
Where do you think Israel's antagonism...
Being killed, were being brutalized,
okay, sure.
were being
Where did
controlled
Israel's
for
antagonism...
decades.
Okay, I thought you said you didn't want to play this game, but let's play this game. You want? Where did Israel's antagonism against the Palestinians come from?
The antagonism comes from the fact that they're trying to rule over millions of people.
You can't even answer the question? Are you capable of seeing the other side or no?
Listen.
I didn't ask you where the antagonism from Israel came. I'm asking you, why do the Israelis
feel...
feel...
Let me finish the sentence.
Because you're giving me more reason why the Palestinians are antagonized.
How do you know what would happen by the end of the sentence if I can't even finish it?
Because you're justifying the other side. I'm asking you to justify the Israeli side.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to explain why Israel has to do what it has to do. Because if you're trying to rule over millions of people... keep them under military rule, control every aspect of their lives, oppress them, abuse them, displace them, destroy their homes. It's an endless list of horrors that they impose on them. Then you're going to be met with resistance. And even if they non-violently protest, they'll still get hit with rubber bullets and tear gas, and sometimes they'll be killed. And then that just escalates the violent reaction. And for how long can you uphold that kind of system while expecting no violence in return? It's totally unreasonable.
Well, I don't know. How long did they do it for... Hold on. How long did the ANC do it? How long did the civil rights marchers do it in the United States? Are black people... Do you think that black people are genetically superior to Palestinian Arabs? Is that... Are they just higher on the genetic totem pole?
No,
so why were these people...
violent. What are you talking about?
The ANC did not target and rape civilians at dance parties, you fucking moron.
Oh my God.
You're going to compare the ANC to fucking Hamas?
They did kill civilians.
Yeah, and when they did, they were reprimanded for it. That wasn't the goal for the ANC. The goal for the ANC was to target...
What do you mean reprimanded?
The goal for the ANC was to target infrastructure. The goal for the ANC was to target infrastructure.
They did violently resist, and slaves violently resisted. I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you think was it the violent resistance of slaves that got you civil rights, or was it the peace marches by MLK? If you look historically, which marches have a higher likelihood of...
What you're doing, it's a very lib take that give all the credit to one man, MLK, because he's the nice guy. He's the guy who was preaching peace.
Do you think Mandela gets credit for...
No, wait, hold on. I just want one quick question. How many civilians did the ANC kill in the entirety of their operation?
I don't know, and and the South Africans definitely did not kill as many South Africans as Israel has, and Israel has been massacring.
I see between 1976 and 1984, 71 people died, 52 of whom were arguably civilians. That's in an 8-year period. How many civilians died on October 7th again?
Okay. How many people did the South African regime kill in that period?
I'm not sure, but you made the comparison that the ANC was like Hamas.
Yeah, because obviously it's proportional to the problem. It's circumstantial. Violence is always going to be a factor, and Israel.
Hold on, wait. So you think the country of South Africa under apartheid didn't commit violence against black people in South Africa?
No, of course they did. That's my point. That's exactly my point.
Wasn't the proportion of violence much higher?
There's no way to uphold this system without violence. It's inherently violent. Your expectation that you could maintain this system without any violence, that's why I was saying, well, what's your expectation? They bend over, they take it for and you literally made it sound like that. They bend over and take it for 5 years. And the amount of violence, the amount of abuse we're talking about is incredible.
Sure, historically.
Take it for 5 years. And then you're supposed to have faith that Israel, which has never expressed an interest
historically
in offering a political solution, is suddenly going to give it to you.
Historically speaking, peaceful protests have a much higher chance of succeeding and getting you what you want at the end of the day than violent protests.
Protests are outlawed in the West Bank.
Okay, and guess what? If you do a bunch of civil protests and people are arresting you, you look good. And you get support for it.
No, we don't have to disagree on that. I do think that they would be better off being a counterpoint to Israel's violence, because Israel's very violent, very racist. If the Palestinians decided to be the opposite of that, reject racism, reject violence, but it is a tall order because it would be sacrificial. They have to find ways to disrupt Israel's society while being boxed into these territories surrounded by military.
Oh yeah,
they'd have to cause a disruption.
Listen, you say it would be hard, it would be sacrificial. Why can't they do that shaheed shit? Isn't that the whole point? Is to be a fucking martyr for the cause of the nation of Palestine?
That's why I think that either way, because they're going to sacrifice themselves either way. That if I were the guy calling the shots, I might say, "Hey, let's go this way," but my expectation when I look at the scenario isn't, well, the Palestinians, they're violent. In return, they return a fraction of the violence that Israel imposes on them.
They return a fraction of the violence because that's all they're capable. They return 100% of the violence they can. They just can't do much.
Yeah, they can't do much, yes.
But they do as much as they can, and if they had the opportunity to do more, they would.
Well, if you talk about like the Palestinian Authority or the PLO, then they tried the other path and they got fucked.
Tried the other path when? In the 70s? What do you mean they tried the other path? What do you mean?
No, what do you mean? The creation of the Palestinian Authority was based on recognizing Israel and meeting Israel's security demands, which the Palestinian Authority does, but they're corrupt. They don't do anything for the Palestinians. Gotcha. They're considered a puppet of Israel. That's why people voted for Hamas, because of how rampant corruption was in the Palestinian Authority, and it got them nowhere.
Okay, gotcha. Any final points?
Yeah,
no, I don't think so. Right. I think the point was well proven, and you can go and tell your audience what a retard I am now. Yeah. Have fun.
Good job. Have fun.
Okay, that was, guys. Can we just all be friends?
No.
I was just gonna say, Destiny. I think the problem is it's a cause and effect, right? If you say rockets are being fired, they should stop the rockets and there'll be peace. And Palestinians will say, well, if you stop the occupation, we'll stop firing the rockets, right? It's like a back and forth. So, I mean, I think a good example is the Palestinians that became Israeli citizens in 1948. They clearly became peaceful because they weren't living under occupation. What would you say to that? What's your argument to like why those Palestinians were? So my argument is this, just to be clear. If there was no occupation, the rockets would stop, Hamas would fucking disappear, and everyone would live in peace and harmony. Israelis can have like a peaceful life and not have to worry about terrorist attacks and shit. They can finally be happy and same on the other side.
Yeah, then negotiate it. Israel's not going to make the first move.
Palestinians have made the first move, right?
Where?
When Mahmoud Abbas in 2018 he offered to start negotiating, Israel didn't want to start negotiating.
Okay, let's hold on. No, wait. Because every single time, every single time you've done this, you've been wrong. So let's go over right now. Maybe this will be the first time you're correct. Show me the good faith negotiations in 2018, because I thought 2018 is when isn't that when the PLO stopped recognizing Israel as a country? So let's show me these 2018 Abbas negotiations. Link me something and we'll read about them. Okay.
Let me send you peace processes that have been attempted to be started by Abbas and.
Well, no, you mentioned 2018, so let me specifically see what the 2018...
Well, it might be 2008. Sorry, it's one of the 8s, 18 or 8, but let me just make sure.
Okay, in 2008, show me explicitly where he tried to make peace.
Yeah, I will. Okay. Hold on. I mean, Destiny, obviously, he's like... You argue that Palestinian PLO wouldn't accept 67 borders, like, literally today?
Of course they would accept it today. It would be more than they could ever hope for. Are you telling me that was his peace deal? We go back to the 67 borders?
I don't know what his exact peace deal. Let me check his peace deal. But I'm sure the peace deal is based on 67 borders because that's what they're entitled to under Security Council.
Okay.
Okay, then we're just not going to agree on the starting point.
That's never going to be the start. It hasn't been in any prior negotiation. I don't know.
What should the starting point be?
Probably 91 to 93% land swaps or something.
Should it just be what Israel wants? Like, is that it? Is it the occupying power that gets to decide exactly what they want? We want you guys to, because we saw what Israel offers.
The occupying power generally has more say. That's kind of why they're the bigger dudes. Yeah. Is it up to Israel? Hold on. Can you agree that you're saying it's up to Israel to give up lands to people that have failed to genocide them for 70 years? But now, since they weren't able to do it, they should come to them in ultra charitable good faith negotiations and give them at least everything they're initially asking for, starting from that point. Is that what you're telling me should happen?
Palestinians have tried to genocide Israel since 1988.
What do you think was the second Intifada?
You think that was an attempt to genocide the country of Israel?
It was literally attacks that sprung up.
What does
all
Intifada mean? What does
I don't
that mean?
remember
What does
the
that word
exact
mean?
resistance or some shit. I don't fucking know.
Shaking off, like getting rid of the occupation. That's the attempt. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and justify any.
Wait, what do you think that
Israeli
means?
citizen.
What do you think that means?
Oh, I'll get into what shaking off means. Like to resist an occupation. Whole point is we're living under occupation. We don't want. Why did the Intifada happen, Destiny? Is it just because they fucking like
the second Intifada?
No.
Yeah, I think it happened because they saw that in Lebanon, Israel fucked up, and for the first time, really, they had to pull back an army, and it shit did not work out there. And they're like, you know what? Fuck it. Maybe if we fucking fight, maybe we can fuck some shit up too. What?
Or 2006. 2006.
Wasn't it 84, 85? There was a like the
82.
shit. What?
82. Yeah. 82.
82. Yeah, I think that after pretty bad, I feel like I read that there was a lot of inspiration post the failures in the Lebanese wars from Israel, where people looked and like, fuck, maybe we keep fighting, we can do some shit. That seemed to be Arafat's point of view. He was a leader of the Palestinians.
I think Arafat. Yeah, I think the competing narratives right now is one side saying Arafat had always planned to start the Intifada if Camp David, they didn't offer him all of 67 borders and like pretty much what he wanted. He was like, okay, only way to do this is through violence. And the other narrative is, well, Sharon's visit to the Temple Mount. Clearly, he knew something was going to happen because he went with hundreds of armed guards, so he knew it was a provocation going in. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm sure they won't do anything.
I'm sorry, not to be mean, but like, if Sharon visiting the Temple Mount is what inspired the second Intifada, then Palestinians don't deserve to have a fucking state. That's a wild fucking statement. That's some actual like jihadist brain rot. If seeing the leader of Israel walk up to the fucking Temple Mount is enough to cause you to do terrorist attacks for fucking over 1,200 days across the entirety of the state of Israel, at that point, your brain is so fucking fried on radical Islamic propaganda, you probably don't need a country. You probably should be subjugated until the end of time. That is an insane statement to make, that the second Intifada only began because Sharon went to the Temple Mount. That's wild. Clearly tensions were brewing for decades prior to that, or since the first.
I'm just giving you multiple narratives.
Right? Well, yeah, but that narrative is insane. You agree? Hold on, but that
word for word on Wikipedia.
That's fine that it's word for word on Wikipedia, okay? But we can both reject that narrative outright. Sharon visiting the Temple Mount is not what caused the second Intifada. It might have been the flashpoint or the boiling point that like tipped it over, but that was not. It wasn't like everybody was like, we're the PM of the Temple Mount. Oh fuck, we're going crazy now.
No, I think from what I understood from reading it about the second Intifada, it was mostly on Arafat's like fucking. It was mostly his doings. That's what I would say.
Well, then what are we even disagreeing over?
No, I'm not. I was just giving you narratives that like about how whatever started. I'm saying that the second Intifada wasn't an attempt to genocide all of Israel. The second Intifada was an attempt to, probably in Arafat's mind, get a more favorable position in like negotiations. That's what I would have to assume. I don't know. I can't read his mind, but that's what I would assume. He probably tried to. Obviously, they knew they were going to defeat the country of Israel. They're not fucking retarded. But sorry, R word.
Way to go.
Can we know about that 2008 peace negotiation that the
Hold on, actually, wait. I just want to focus on this real quick. I'm so sorry. And then for that,
no
wait,
problem.
The second Intifada then. Why would you say that wasn't an attempt at genocide? I'm curious.
I believe that it was an attempt at Arafat causing harm to the Israeli psyche for them to say, okay, we don't want to fucking deal with this. We want to pull back to 67 borders. We just want to give them what they want. That was my interpretation.
Do you think that the attack right now on the Gaza Strip is a genocide?
Like Israel bombing Gaza, or the October 7th.
No, the Israel bombing Gaza. And then my next question is going to be, how do you differentiate that from the second Intifada?
Yeah, it's like I don't know how I would define like the word genocide here. I would say I can tell you what I think is happening. I think indiscriminate bombing is happening. And I call that a genocide, like an attempt to kill every single Palestinian? Probably not. I don't think you can say that. I think there's definitely been indiscriminate bombing, and I only say that because I think something like 45% of homes in Gaza City were like destroyed, and I can't imagine there being a Hamas operative in 45% of the homes in Gaza City.
That would be wild if half the homes in Gaza were destroyed. I would say that would be an insane number if that actually happened.
I don't know. It's like I read it on like some.
I know.
When
I've heard this number a lot. It's not true, but that's okay. Okay. Fourth
is
thought.
that
Go.
not like a report from the UN?
No, it's something like 42% or 37% of homes have been either destroyed or damaged, and people are like running
What
around.
does damage mean?
Yeah, good question. I think it's like have suffered any structural damage. So I think like if your window gets blown up, that's considered damage. But I don't know. Somebody can find the actual article. We can go back and read that again. It's been a while since I looked at this number.
Yeah,
so.
whatever. Yeah, it's not, yeah. So I don't know if I would say genocide. I would say I think the argument for genocide that people try to make is the whole like blocking initially of food and water and goods and medicine and whatever. Right.
Gotcha.
I think that was the argument. Like you're trying to starve a population. I don't know if the argument was because of the bombing.
Okay. All right.
Fair.
Go. Okay. Forethought can do your thing real quick. Also, fuck, I have to go in like 15 minutes. I have to work my way through some of this. This shit has been open for so long, and I've got to watch this fucking movie tonight. But okay, so go.
Yeah.
Forethought, what were your questions?
No, I need to. Is it? You have like 5 minutes to go over Goldstone.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go for it.
Stephen.
Oh, me? What did you want to just make some arguments, or did you disagree with something I said, or what?
I don't know if you ever encountered this point where like the Goldstone report was retracted and like why it happened and the pushback on that. I don't know if you're interested in that at all.
Go for it. I've heard this before.
Yeah. So basically Goldstone goes to Gaza. Actually, no, he's made an offer from the UN specifically to investigate Israeli war crimes. He rejects that offer and demands the ability to investigate both sides. This comes in later.
Okay.
So
wait, have you debated liking on this, or?
No, I haven't. This is.
Why don't you liking it? You two should argue about this. This is liking the point, right?
There's no. He's not. No, there's no point. This is the only like good point that actually got any of my interest, and it wasn't from him.
Okay.
It was from Finkeldick. So this is all really from Finkeldick.
Okay.
So he goes to Gaza, and his expectation going in was that because he is Jewish, because he is not from Israel, that he has just this huge track record of doing these really robust prosecutions of war crimes both in South Africa and Yugoslavia, that he expected going in that Israel would cooperate because he felt that he met their requirements for getting some sort of cooperation within the international community. And even going prior to his going, he's like, the ICC and the UN are pretty biased against Israel. Hopefully they will cooperate. Stuff like that. He goes, they don't cooperate. The report comes out. It says what it says. Israel releases a report after doing some investigation. And then sometime later in 2011, they released more documentation and specifically around a drone strike. And on the other side of that, Hamas obviously does nothing. So that's why he writes his retraction. He says, because apparently under international law, there's some sort of basic requirement that you have to conduct internal investigations as a country, just as a basic respect for your international sovereignty as a nation, that you're allowed to like prosecute your own war crimes if you'd like, or at least investigate them. And after Israel conducts their investigation, even though it's not all conclusive, and of course it's their own investigation, so who can say, in the face of Hamas doing nothing, and Israel actually spending a pretty decent amount of resources, he decides to print a retraction, basically trying to distance himself from what was basically a political tool to persecute Israel in some sense. So that's why the Goldstone report was retracted.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, super interesting. I don't know if you're ever going to get to this, but there's this huge, really interesting write-up of whether or not Israel's actually considered an occupier in Gaza and what they qualify as and what international laws actually apply. And it's just super duper interesting. I hope you get to that eventually. But I got into the Stormgate beta, so I want to get all this out of my brain so I can go play video games.
Yeah, okay. I love you.
I sent you the 2014 Abbas peace plan that you asked for. It was actually 2014, so I guess I was wrong.
Okay, 2014 peace plan. What did this look like?
All right, peace out.
Be careful, babe.
Just go down to where it says 2014 Abbas peace plan.
Scroll down to it.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't see a scroll down to it. Can you help me with what the title of the section is or what it's called, or?
Okay, hold on. It's go scroll down, keep going, like go through the timeline until you get to
Abbas's 2014 peace plan. Okay. In September 2014, Abbas presented a new proposal for the peace process to John Kerry. The plan called for 9 months direct talks followed by a 3-year plan for Israel to withdraw to the 67 lines, leaving East Jerusalem as Palestine's capital. The resumption of talks was contingent on an Israeli freeze on construction of the West Bank and East Jerusalem, as well as the release of the final batch of prisoners from the previous talks. The first 3 months of the plan would revolve around the borders and potential land swaps for the 67 lines. The following 6 months focused on issues, including refugees, Jerusalem, settlement, security, and water. The administration rejected the initiative, saying it was opposed to any unilateral move that could negatively impact the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. Abbas stated that if Israel rejected the claim, he would push for charges against Israel in the International Court of the 2014 Israeli-Gaza conflict issue if rejected. Abbas stated he would turn to the UN Security Council for a unilateral measure for a Palestinian state. On the 1st of October 2014, Abbas stated he'd be presenting his plan to the UNSC within 2 to 3 weeks with an application to the ICC to follow if it failed to pass UNSC. In 2014, Jordan submitted the proposal to UNSC, which failed when voted on later that month. Later that month, as previously threatened, Abbas signed the treaty to join the ICC. Israel responded by freezing $127 million of Palestinian tax revenues, in response to which the PA banned the sale on the Palestinian territories of products of 6 major Israeli companies. Okay, what is the peace plan?
I mean, his peace, like his attempt at like, yo, let's negotiate peace based on 67 with some land swaps. That like Israel didn't want to, wasn't interested. America wasn't interested.
Hold up. What were the plans? What were the negotiations?
Israel wasn't interested in negotiating.
Well, what was his starting point?
His starting point is right there. By a 3-year plan for Israel to withdraw to the 67 lines, leaving East Jerusalem as the Palestinian capital.
Does that mean a full disengagement of all?
Like he says land swaps here.
No. I'm asking from East Jerusalem. Is that a full disengagement of every Jewish neighborhood in East Jerusalem? That's what I'm asking. There's got to be like a more detailed plan or something here, right?
Usually when they talk about land swaps, the biggest Israeli settlements, as I understand them, are in East Jerusalem. And those are the ones that are usually talked about. Okay, how do we swap for those? Because I believe those make up like 80% of the settlers.
Wait, can I ask a question? And I truly don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
no. Shit, you're good. Sorry, you're just reading. When people talk about settlements, do they consider the things in East Jerusalem settlements? I thought that these were all just like ethnic neighborhoods and enclaves and shit. Are those considered their own settlements? I thought settlements were the constructions of new cities. I truly don't know.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure too. Maybe somebody in the chat can answer, but from what I understand, there's been a lot of new construction also in East Jerusalem, and a big initiative. I think even the Jerusalem municipality tried to make the demographics of Jerusalem. Like this was like a goal politically to make it 70% Jewish, 30% Arab. They realized, okay, this is too hard to do. Like this is not realistic. So then they settled for 60-40.
Okay, I'm just curious what these negotiations looked like, or what this was. If this was like fair, if this was like a decent starting point, or if this was like obviously like a flex and it was like way too far, or whatever.
Do you also remember when John Kerry like submitted parameters and Netanyahu responded by saying something like, we're fine with the Palestinian state as long as we can keep building settlements and, keep doing what we want to do, and kind of fucking trolled John Kerry. So, I mean, you would agree that Israel hasn't been interested in any kind of peace plan since the Intifada summit. Actually, Olmert was one in 2008 where they wanted to give Palestinians, I think 8%. They wanted to retain 8% of the West Bank, not including East Jerusalem. They also wanted to retain portions of East Jerusalem. But that was the only attempt since the Intifada summit by Israel. I wouldn't even say by Israel. Only attempt where Israel was willing to negotiate at all or come to the table.
Yeah, I've said this. I don't know how to say. I'll say this again. Obviously, there are probably going to be times where people start off with certain negotiations, but it's clearly a non-starter, and it's not. There's nothing happening here that's really. So let's try. If it's 2014,
you have to be fair.
No, there's 60 going back to pure 67 borders
Israel,
are. Okay. I don't think
Israel can't choose the starting point.
Of course they can. They're the occupying power. Of course, it's basically up to them. Yeah. Who should choose the starting point? The people that failed to ethnically cleanse. Well, I mean, if one side tried to kill the other side over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and then they failed, and okay, fuck, let's figure some shit out. You're not going to go back to where you were before you started to do all the killings.
When did the Palestinians try to ethnically cleanse Israel since like '67? Like, wasn't Yom Kippur like Syria and Egypt and maybe a little bit of Jordan? I don't remember Palestinians like constantly trying to ethnically cleanse the
No, but all the surrounding
Israelis.
states on behalf of the Palestinians were trying to, right?
Okay, but those eventually stopped, and like, how are you going to blame the
stop!
Palestinians
Don't say that. They didn't. What do you mean?
Why don't they take?
Wait, they didn't eventually
Why don't they
stop.
take land from Jordan then?
They tried to.
Punish Jordan. Punish Egypt.
They tried
Push
to.
them.
They did
Why are
that.
you
That's why
punishing
Egypt
it?
closes the Rafah crossing. It's because the Muslim Brotherhood tries to fucking kill Egyptian leaders. And yeah, they tried to do it in Jordan. That's why they assassinated the king in 55, I think,
No,
in
I'm
Jerusalem,
talking
and tried to
about
appeal
Israel.
up. Yeah. What?
You're saying Egypt tried to genocide or tried to ethnically cleanse Israelis, and so did Jordan, and so did Syria. So why is it that
Jordan
those living in the
ethnically
West
cleansed.
Bank
Yeah,
right
Jordan
now-
ethnically cleansed all the Jewish people from East Jerusalem when they conquered in 48 the West Bank. Yeah, of course.
You know who's living in those? Who ended up living in a lot of those homes? Palestinians that were ethnically cleansed from Haifa and Nazareth and all these other places.
Okay, so if you swap, it's ethnically swapping cleansing.
No, but you realize that was the Sheikh Jarrah problem that happened in 2019. I don't know if you heard of it. That was the whole thing, right? They're saying that those homes historically belonged to the Jews, but it's like, yeah, well, their homes were they were kicked out of their homes, so are they just fucking sitting in the street?
All right. Listen,
Anyway, good
it-
talk.
it- yeah.
Enjoy your
love you.
California trip. Try to come out to San Francisco if you can. I know it's only an 8-hour drive. Take you to a best ramen spot you ever had in your life. Actually, you've been to Japan. Never mind.
I'll take it.
All right, take
I
care.
have not been
Bye.
to Japan, but okay, have a